Yeah, I would have been all, get on the car. Get on the ground.
Signing tonight.
All right.
Philly was playing
Good
Barney
evening.
Fife.
Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting, November 18th, 2013. If we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first order of business is we have a public hearing for Georgetown Realty Trust, DBA Townsend Oil, an application for amended license for storage of flammable liquids. So please come forward and state your names.
Hi, Martin Arsenault. I represent the Georgetown Realty Trust, and approaching now is Robert Seppi, who's the engineer on this project.
You said Roger?
It's Robert. Robert Seppi.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Yes, good evening. So tell us, what's up?
Well, we're here before you today to seek approval of an amendment to an existing LP gas license for the property owned by the Georgetown Realty Trust, which is leased by Townsend Oil Company, located off West Main Street, in between West Main Street and Prospect Street in Georgetown. I'm sure you're all familiar with the location. Pursuant to Chapter 148, Section 13, this board has the power to approve the amendment of these licenses. That approval has to happen after a public hearing. Upon 7 days certified mail notice to the abutters, which has occurred, and I provided you with a supplemental notice to show that that notice did go out, and publication in a newspaper, which I assume Janet has taken care of. The existing license for the property allows for the storage above ground of 12,200 gallons of LP gas. There is an error in my memorandum on the second page, which I wanted to point out to you in that regard, because it does say 42,000 gallons there. I apologize for that.
So what were you saying it was?
It's 12,000. The existing license is 12,200 gallons. It was granted by this board in 2010. The above-ground storage license primarily covers the empty storage containers that are on site. The chief, I'm sure, could address this as well, but under the licensing statute, any container that's on site has to be considered to be full. So we sought that license to cover the empty containers that are on site. As part of our request here today, we're looking to expand that portion of the license as well to allow us to have an increased number of primarily empty above-ground containers on site. That's to take into account the fact that we're also requesting a 30,000-gallon underground LP gas storage tank. Mr. Seppi's here today to address the technical concerns that the board may have about that tank. It has been reviewed by the fire department, and we have provided the fire department with a fire safety analysis as they requested, covering the technical aspects and how the tank will be installed. In connection with the work that we're proposing for the site, we're also proposing to fence off the property for additional security purposes. That fence would run along the edge of the building so that we would not impede the traffic flow from West Main Street across our property to what's now Milton Way.
This is the fence here. I have a bigger picture on the other side if you'd like me to turn it around.
So that would enclose the area in which all of the oil or LP gas is stored, but would also allow the abutting property owners to continue to have unfettered access across the Georgetown Realty Trust property to their properties. There are no recorded easements there that I'm aware of, but those people have been using the property for that purpose for a long enough period of time that we don't want to interfere with that. The amended license is sought by Townsend Oil and Georgetown Realty Trust to react to changing market conditions. Market conditions have changed for energy resources. Without the 30,000 gallon tank and the additional storage that we seek, it's going to be difficult for them to meet the demand of their customers locally. The fire department, as I said, has been provided with the data regarding this project, and I'm sure the chief will speak in that regard. In making this proposal, Townsend Oil has three key goals: safety, security, and aesthetics. We're confident that we can meet the needs of the public from a safety and security perspective through the use of an underground storage tank. The security is enhanced by the increased fencing on the property, and aesthetically, part of the project will be cleaning up the site to make it more attractive to the public. We've also spoken to the abutting property owners that are directly behind the project off Jackson Way about planting some arborvitaes along there in the spring to shield their home from a direct view of the site. The board should approve the application as submitted to it to allow an established business in town to continue to operate and meet changing market conditions. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Seppi so he can discuss the technical aspects of the plan with the board. Unless you have any questions for me at this time.
Just, can you just point out where the existing railroad easement, or railroad was? I just want to make sure it's underneath it, right? Okay.
See better, that's why this plan is here. Basically runs the old easements down here.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd just point out, though, that there are no recorded easements that I was able to find on that property. There is the National Grid land that's adjacent to it, but on the...
It is adjacent, it's not on the property.
Correct.
If I may, Mr. Chair, one question. And that is, on the application then, you're looking for 30,000 gallons, but you also mentioned an increase in the storage. So what were you looking at there? Because I've
It
got
would be
in
an
front of me 42,200. Is that
Correct,
also a
correct.
change, or
That is another amendment, and
is that what you're looking to go to?
well, what we're looking for above-ground storage would be 42,220
20.
gallons.
Okay, so
An
that is
increase of
correct.
30,000 from the existing 12,220. And as I said, that's primarily, and Mark Townsend, who's here, one of the owners of the business, can discuss the operational side of this if the board has questions in that regard. But as I understand it, it's those additional tanks would be required to meet demand. And that would be primarily empty tanks that would comprise that additional requested storage capacity. I don't know, Mark, would there be that much on site at any given time?
No, well, one thing is we also count the 3 delivery trucks, the bobtails. Those are like 3,000 gallons apiece.
Correct.
So that, 3,300 gallons apiece, so those are included in that 42.
In that total,
Okay.
correct.
So, if I just, can I ask, I'm just a little confused on the above-ground storage and the purpose to keep them empty. You had mentioned it. Can you just clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, these are primarily empty tanks. When the tanks come back from someone's home, they're pumped off, right? The gas is removed from them. Am I
That's
correct,
correct.
Mark? So they're not stored full. So these are just tanks that are waiting there to be brought to a customer's home and installed as part of the business.
And some of these are brand-new tanks that we get from the supply house that have never had a drop of gas put in them, but we have to count those as full.
For the overall license.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So at
Okay.
any point, you can only have, if you're approved tonight for this 42,200 of storageable unit on your site, right?
Right.
Whether it's full or
Above
not.
ground.
Yes,
Yes, okay.
yes.
Mr. Chairman, I have some operational questions. How many households do you service in Georgetown?
Propane,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't actually look that up. In Georgetown, I would say it's for propane, oil and propane are just.
Well, whatever's gonna be stored, whatever you service from this site, how much, give me a percentage of how much of those,
I would say oil probably I would say 500 oil, maybe a little more, and propane probably 350, 400.
So from a percentage basis, how does that fit into your what the volume that you're doing here? Is it 10%, 20%, 30% of your volume
That would be done right in Georgetown,
for Georgetown residents?
15%.
15%? Okay. And second question is to the engineer on the underground tank. You know, we've, I don't know if you've heard, but we've had some environmental issues here in town, and anything that goes underground I'm always leery of, or a little bit, I don't know, want to know the risks associated with putting things in the ground. Can you give me a sense of how safe those are in terms of leakage, or and any concerns with environmental damage?
Well, from a leakage standpoint, it's not a liquid petroleum like you see with fuel tanks and gasoline that's caused all the problems in the past. This is a gas. So there's really no way for it to leak, but theoretically, if for some reason it were to leak, it'd be a gas coming out of the ground. It would not be a liquid. It would not pollute the ground.
Right. So if it technically, if it did release and it was in the ground, that gas coming up through that soil wouldn't contaminate that soil?
No.
Okay. So these are relatively safe?
Yes, very safe. They're actually, pressure vessels that are very thick steel,
Okay.
that are coated and cathodically protected.
How long have they been putting them underground? Years and years, or is this some new technology?
National Grid
or-
used to put them underground back in the 40s and 50s to supplement the natural gas because they never had enough. They've been around for a long time. And those tanks are still available used. They've come out of the ground and they're in good shape.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, why don't we allow you to share with us your presentation?
Assume you're all aware, but this is the existing bulk fuel tank with the fuel oil and the containment with the loading area. What we try to do is leave that alone. We're also trying to contain everything in the yard so that there's no access from anybody. So we're adding a new fence that's gonna run along the property here, turn with a gate where the trucks can come in, and then continue around the rest of the property to the front, where there'll be another gate to exit, trying to keep a flow of traffic that's, that is safe, basically drive-through traffic. The propane, the new part of this project is the propane tank that's going in the ground. This is the bulk of the project, and that's going in the ground. So you're not gonna see this huge tank sitting above ground on stilts, which could be exposed to fire or anything. It's in the ground, so it's safe. It doesn't get heated up by the sun. It's, they can't get hit by a vehicle. It's the safest way to go. The only thing that's exposed will be a little area in the middle here where the pipes will come out of the ground. That one pipe will go to the trailer who unloads and fills the tank, and the other pipes will be to load the bobtails that'll go up for delivery. There'll be crash protection around these pipes. If they were to break, nothing's gonna happen to the safety valve at the tank. They're also adding a concrete pad to park their trucks on, and they're also gonna clean up the yard, which is miscellaneous concrete, asphalt, dirt. So, there's not a whole lot to a propane facility compared to an oil facility. It's pretty basic, straightforward.
Mr. Chair, I just have a quick question. So, is there gonna be much added capacity of vehicle traffic on that site?
Well, the only added vehicle traffic that I can think of would be the transport bringing it in. And I would anticipate in the height of the season, we would get a transport in every other day. But as far as the amount of delivery vehicles, they're the same as they were when we came last time for the amended license. We haven't added any new bobtail propane delivery trucks.
Gotcha. Now the road that leads to American Legion Park, is that an easement? What's the arrangement we have on that?
Well,
Or is
the
it just
portion of the
squatting
road,
rights?
based upon the research that I conducted, the portion of the roadway that goes from Prospect Street to Milton Way, there's no recorded easement. But I would hazarding a guess, and without admitting that it's the case, there would be an easement by prescription, by use by the public for many years. And the Townsends are aware of that and don't want to interfere with those uses that have been made of that land.
Would your client be interested in pursuing a formal lease or easement agreement on that property?
Would that create some,
Not that they-
I know that in the past you've done snow removal there, correct?
We have.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Would that create a situation where the town would take on some responsibility for maintaining that area? It would certainly be in their best interest.
I think that, it is not related to the application tonight. It's one of those things where if we don't have an agreement on paper and there's nothing recorded in there, I'm not necessarily worried about today, I think we've got a good relationship, but the day you plan on selling that someday, it might create an issue. I prefer to protect both our parties if we can.
We
So
certainly,
we'll-
you'd certainly,
We would explore that.
yeah,
Yeah,
we'd
it'd be better
certainly
to
be
clean it
open
up
to
if
discussing
we
that.
could.
Yeah, I mean, the whole area in there is a mess from a title perspective.
Yeah, yeah, we did.
There's paper streets throughout there, and, you know, I appreciate your concerns, and I think my clients are open to discussions about creating those sorts of rights.
One question, what style fence are you considering?
It'd be a chain link fence, 6 feet high.
Okay.
Perhaps Mr. Seppi could discuss the construction of the tank, the thickness of it, and,
As I mentioned earlier, that they're ASME vessel tanks, they're approved. Normally, the new ones are 5/8 thick shell. There are some used ones, like I mentioned earlier, from people like National Grid, which back in the 50s were made 15, 16 thick, so they're like 1.5 times thicker. And we are looking at that option to buy older tanks that have thicker steel and more safety factor.
Mr. Chairman, if I might. So from a math perspective, you're asking for an additional 30,000 gallons to be stored on the site underground and an additional another 30,000 above ground. So you're looking for 60,000 more gallons compared to what you have now.
that's correct.
And right now, we're at the max is 12,220?
12,220 is what the existing license is.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty big jump.
It
I mean,
is,
I
yeah.
would be, there's a little cause for concern.
Mhm.
That, is demand is that high.
What's really happened, it's a combination.
Well, this is a public, hearing, you may
Oh,
want to.
that's
We need-
Jim
I'm
Townsend.
Jim Townsend.
Okay, all right, thanks.
What's really happened, and I don't have the exact facts, but for the past 5 years, propane, unlike nat gas, does not have a pipeline up here. And so we've been on allocation at various terminals, whether it be waterborne terminals, whether it be rail terminals, or whether it be other inland terminals. And so it's a combination of a function of both the demand as well as you've all heard of this just-in-time inventory.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what's happening with propane.
The trucks on the old
And so
license.
it's a combination of the demand as well as the time when product is allocated. We sell a necessity of life, and we take that responsibility pretty seriously. And so, it's really very much just the nature of the supply picture with energy as much as it is the increased demand.
Okay.
Question, yeah. Are you planning with this added 30,000 gallon tank to supply just your trucks, or are you thinking that you'll be able to supply some other business
No,
trucks?
it wouldn't be a throughput operation, it'd be strictly for our use.
Okay.
A throughput arrangement is one where other dealers would come into our terminal, and for a fee, they would pick up product there. This is for our exclusive use.
Thank you.
So
Any questions, other questions?
Yeah, on that particular issue, is that a different permit, or is that,
No.
if we grant this license, you could do that if you want in the future?
The license is for storing a product on the land. It
Right.
really doesn't affect the operation.
It doesn't
how you
affect
dole
on
it
who
out.
uses it. Okay.
you talk about aesthetics for a second, and you mentioned a chain link fence in front. Any reason, any reason you wouldn't go for a more traditional downtown aesthetic, such as a, vinyl picket or something, at least in the front?
The main reason, obviously, is security, to try to keep kids from climbing in, jumping in. Some structural barrier to it. It's just the standard we've used. I mean, if there's something else that Townsend's wanted to use, we could look at it. You want something rigid that's gonna stay there. And it's not gonna be, pulled over with some kids, grabbing on the plastic fence and pulling it over.
I'd like to find out if there's a balance that we could work on. If we
Maybe
can.
some of those green slats in the fence to give it some color. They
I'm,
don't last, but
Well, the point is to make it aesthetically pleasing to the eye, you know, in that area. You want to keep up with the look of the neighborhood, so.
it's a historic district down there.
That's the big concern.
So, Mr. Townsend, if you're workable and on that, we would.
Phil, I would say that one of the things that we are governed by, and it's part of the security, is the
Yeah.
Homeland Security Act.
Mhm.
And so I think there is some detail and attention in terms of what the construction of fencing and security, barriers should be. Like no reason why we wouldn't look at something that looks great, but could still, comply with those standards.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate the consideration. The other option is if you do the chain link, maybe think about, putting greenery around it, shrubs, arborvitae, something like that. That might be just a good, nice visual shield.
We had intended to do that in certain areas.
Yeah.
You can take a look, it's not, in the grand scope of things, it's not a lot of additional
Yeah.
cost or work.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Love to
Board?
hear the safety aspects
Just,
of this from the fire chief.
I
Yeah.
think one, you presently, I took a drive through there on the way over. It looks like you've got a small propane filling area now. Do you like refill 20 gallon tanks and that?
No, we don't, and actually.
It was chained up, it looked like that type
What
of,
that we use that for is when we take a new installation out to a home, we'll put 10% in the tank, and we use that to put the 10% in. But if we get approved for this project, that's actually gonna come out.
okay, yeah, because that looked right now about the only thing that's really.
That's
chained-
gonna be removed.
Got fenced in,
Right.
okay, so you probably won't have that anymore,
We're setting up this new 30,000 facility to replace that use.
okay,
that's actually where the trucks are parked now.
Oh.
yeah, okay.
But to answer your question, we're not in the business for barbecue tanks and things like that. People don't come in and
Yeah.
fill their cylinders and bring them home.
And so where's the old building, is that what's down there where there used to be the way station?
Yes.
Is that the small one in the
On
front
there,
there?
right? Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So that fence that you're proposing will go right out to West Main?
No. The fence, the new fence is right here.
Okay,
This is the building.
Yeah,
behind
okay,
it.
yeah,
It's
'cause
set
you-
back, you really can't see it from Main Street.
okay,
And some of you may remember where this tank is gonna go is approximately where the old coal shed was that went on fire in 1990. I'm
Mhm.
not sure whether you remember that, but that's
yeah, I used to
roughly-
buy coal there.
That's roughly.
We don't remember that. But they're-
Although I'm old enough, I don't remember. I must have
I
been.
was in the living room with my second son when it was burning.
Oh, fun.
Gotcha.
All right, okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board at the moment? I'd like to hear from the fire chief, if we could.
Chief?
From the fire
Just
department?
from an overall fire department perspective? Thoughts,
We've
concerns?
had numerous discussions with the towns and people over this. We talked about putting, for an underground storage tank, having tie downs, so in the event you get, one of these 100-year, floods that we seem to get, they'll be tied down, anchored into the concrete, so you won't have a 30,000-gallon tank.
Rolling around.
Yeah, I'd already discussed the chief with that, and we are planning on doing, that's standard practice, to have, to call deadmen to hold it in the ground.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman, another question for the chief. Chief, could you stand up so that people can you please stand so people can hear you? How's the track record been? Any issues?
No problems
As far as
at all.
you're concerned?
In fact, what they were talking about when we amended the license the last time, I think it was 2010, I believe it was, we had discovered a number of cylinders that were there, and we met with the folks from Townsend. We got the amendment made on the license with absolutely no problems. They've been a good neighbor for us.
So in your expert opinion, would you recommend approving the project?
I've known of their business for probably the best part of 20, 30 years, and never have heard of a problem or experienced any problems with them.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief, I have one more question, if you don't mind. So, the risk is really, really low, and of any major incident. I get that. We've seen, at least on the news, I've seen underground storage tanks catch on fire, and fortunately not anywhere local around here. The other question I have is, in the event of any catastrophe down there, do we have the fire apparatus in order to suppress a major problem down there?
No.
We don't. What would we need if we, what would you need?
Lots and lots of fire trucks. Because if you've seen the reports on the news, the biggest problem that occurs with these tanks is what's called a blevy, which is a boiling liquid that occurs and the tank blows apart.
Yep.
The way the tanks are being designed these days, they actually provide them with curvature, so it kind of reduces and helps with distribution of heat overall. For this to the tank, it's going to be underground. Its hazards are dramatically reduced because it's underground. You don't have the elements of, our New England winters and summers
Heat and everything.
beating down on the tank, taking its toll on the tank. When we had talked about the distribution point itself for the bobtails, I had talked to them about putting in extra protection, more than just what the NFPA standard calls for, and they've assured me that they will have that. In fact, I think that's in some of their drawings, the extra protection for cement barriers and such.
So to be fair, most in other communities who have these larger storage tanks underground probably don't have the apparatus they need either, and would.
Topsfield has it.
Topsfield has it,
Topsfield has 30,000 gallon tanks sitting right over there, right next to the fairgrounds.
and do they have the
They're above
apparatus?
ground.
Do they all, does Topsfield have all the fire apparatus to take care of? Right, so it would be mutual aid that you would,
Oh, yeah.
so most other, okay, I just wanna make sure that we're not overlooking something that other communities might have in place.
And there's no automatic systems such as like at gas stations that could suppress some type, something like that, a fire?
You're working with a vapor here,
Right,
a little bit different than working with gasoline.
right, I understand.
Pressure.
Right.
All right, any other questions from the board? I'd like to open it up to the audience if they have questions. Anybody in the audience, any neighbors, abutters? Please state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Pam Sheehan. I live at 13 Prospect Street, and I'm representing my parents, Joe and Carol, who are the homeowners at 13 Prospect Street. And we adamantly oppose this, because the one thing that hasn't been discussed is this is smack dab in the middle of a residential neighborhood, surrounded on all sides except for one by houses. We're directly across the street in Prospect Street, and we currently look on 7 oil trucks. We've been there for 52 years. When Elliott owned the business, there were 2 above-ground oil tanks. There's now 7. It's a horrible eyesore. They're rusty. We're not protected by any barriers or fencing or anything. And what we have to tolerate is, especially in the fall, winter months, and spring, is all of the oil trucks, 18-wheel tanker trucks coming from Boston round the clock, 24/7. Sometimes in the middle of winter, we can have 2 and 3 18-wheelers sitting out there waiting, and with idling engines, and we're woken up almost every night of the winter. And it's safety, it's aesthetics, and everything is safe until something happens, and then it's not. And I just think where other people have their oil tanks, I don't know if they're smack dab in the middle of residential neighborhoods. So we oppose it for the reasons of noise, for the disruption to our lives that happens all of the time, that we don't seem to have any ability to stop. We get that somebody might run out of oil in the middle of the night and a truck needs to start up to go to make an oil delivery, but the 18-wheelers, we don't see why they can't come during the day. And then having more fuel there is only going to mean more tanker trucks are coming, and they seem to come in the middle of the night because I'm sure that's the quickest route from Boston and the least amount of traffic. So again, we say, as the residents right next to it, not safe enough for us.
Thank you.
Could I give Mark Townsend an opportunity to address the operational issues that the neighbor just raised?
Sure. As far as saying the tanks aren't protected, they're in a dike, a cement dike that, for any reason, if the tanks leaked, they would, it would hold the oil. So they are protected. No, there is not a fence around there now, but there will be if this was approved. As far as, when we purchased that property from the Elliots, we did not add any new tanks. Those were all there at the time of the purchase. So no new tanks were added. The man, she stated there was 2, and now we have 6. There was always 6 there since the day we bought the business. You know, I don't, we could do some, you know, certainly, there shouldn't be trucks there at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. We can certainly work with that and do the very best we can. Now, you know, it's, if you know, if we get a forecast of 3 or 4 days below 0, you know, heating oil is a necessity of life, and you know, you may have to, you know, bring something in the middle of the night, but I don't, that's not a, doesn't have to be a steady diet of that.
When's the typical delivery happening for the larger fill trucks coming in during the peak season?
Well, the peak season, I mean, what we have told our truckers that unless it's a real emergency, we don't want them coming in till 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, the first truck coming in.
Okay.
Our trucks, right now, we don't start till 7 o'clock in the morning. Now, if our trucks are starting, someone mentioned earlier that the truck was started at 6 o'clock in the morning and idling, we can certainly do something about that.
What about late night deliveries? Are there typical
Well, see,
fill truck late night deliveries?
On our home heating oil trucks,
Well,
very rare.
I'm thinking about I think, were you talking about a tanker coming in to fill
the tanks.
to fill the tanks?
Around the clock.
Are there
It's
late night?
I would have to dispute around the clock.
Well, we live there.
It could be during peak, you know, 0-degree weather in the middle of winter. You're gonna have
Yeah.
a lot of oil going out. You're gonna bring oil coming in.
Yeah.
Question while we're on the subject?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, I'm
How-
Todd Belfay. I live on 1 Jackson Way, up on, right behind the facilities. And I would dispute the times because consistently every day there's someone there at 5:30, trucks idling for half an hour before they pull up. And they even idle a little bit longer while they fill up their tanks. So the time between 4, 7 a.m. is
Wrong.
always 7 a.m. everyone's out of there and it's quiet, so. So if this is gonna be increase in traffic and it's gonna be even more time, and if you can't get control of that, I have a problem with that.
All right, Gary. Thank you.
Just to that, I mean, I'm seeing a willingness here from the town sense to want to work on that, if, at least it seems that way. But, and I understand where the area is, and it is surrounded by a residential area. I spent a couple of years of my life on Prospect Street. I'm familiar with the area. But just one question also. Any idea in the history how long that has been in operation as a fuel business? I mean, we're going back to the days of coal. So it's been operating, I would say, as a fuel business. I don't know how long Elliott was there, but they were.
The late 1800s, I believe.
Yeah, and there was also a lumber company there, so it is a bad mix, but it's always been there. And so I think we've got to try to make the best of both worlds and try to work together. I mean, I don't think we want to really try to. I'm not happy about this, but I don't think that you want to. I mean, businesses have to expand today, and it's better than a empty lot, I think, for the town. But I mean, we certainly want to hear everything. But
Yes.
Hi, Carolyn Belfay, also at 1 Jackson Way. Now, my main concern is the amount of fumes that come out of the yard. I'm gonna say, 2000, so much propane filled my house that my 2 twin boys were out like a light. And just yesterday, I was walking with Barbara Angelopoulos, we could smell it everywhere, and if you're just gonna give us more, I don't want that by my house, simple as that. I mean, I've lived there for 20 years, and it's just getting worse and worse. I mean, I'm gonna have to move. That's my concern. I have children, you're right by a playground, and that is just in the air constantly.
But on the other hand, the chief says he's never had a complaint. I mean, has anybody ever brought any complaints?
We filed a complaint with the fire marshal when the tank leaked
And then they came, I believe they talked with Townsend and had them not store those tanks on your property, they had to be empty.
Just don't
I
want any
believe
more.
they made you do that.
Of course.
Yeah, the only complaints that we received, I'm not sure if it's the same time you're referring to.
This was in 2000.
Oh, no, yeah, it was before my time, was back in 2010, when we had complaints about the odor, and we went over and investigated, that's when we had things changed up. Tanks were, the number of tanks were reduced, and that was what was changed on the current license.
Is there a way that on this new tank that's coming in to have, a vapor reclamation or something like that on it?
The 30,000 underground tank is a closed system.
Yeah.
It's not like the small tanks that come back from the homes that may have a relief that release some of the product. And also, once you transfer, you have a little loss when you transfer something.
Right, I think, right now, we're not loading or unloading bulk trucks there right now. I believe the only smell that you would get is if we try to keep the tank, if we, for some reason, we bring 2 full tanks back from someone's home that isn't gonna use them anymore, we will pump those tanks down into the bobtail, and there will be some odor from that. But that's the only unloading we're doing right now is to try to get keep the tanks empty, so we have as many empty tanks on the property as possible.
So let me ask you this. So today you've got 12,200 gallons of capacity licensed on that site. And you're looking to increase 30,000 underground and 30,000 above ground?
The 30,000 above ground would be
The trucks?
trucks and cylinders.
Cylinders, right. What's the detriment to your business if you reduce that? So let's just say, for example, we decided, and collectively here, we're willing to work with you, but going from 12,200 to 72,200 is a significant jump. Is there a way for you guys to do this iteratively and for us to take a look at how the operation will work over the next X period of time, and then if we are all comfortable with it, you come to the board again for an additional capacity increase?
I think the undergrounds be kept separate. That's a whole different issue. The 12, the 42, I think you were making sense, but the 30,000 underground is a totally separate issue, really.
Phil, I think on the 42, and not that this is a hardship, but the detriment, if you would,
Sure.
would be that we would be limited in terms of now being able to buy tanks in bulk. We can operate our business, frankly, with less than 42,000. We have to change how we operate, and this is the above ground storage. Would you agree, Mark?
Yes.
We have to change how we would operate the business, but we would be willing to work with you. And we just have to handle our purchasing differently, and we would have fewer tanks on the ground, particularly new tanks, as opposed to having a truckload or transporting in with a trailer load of new tanks.
And one thing we do is, that most propane companies don't do, is we don't service any of our own tanks on the property. We don't revalve any tanks, so that eliminates the odor. Every tank that we have refurbished gets picked up and taken off-site to be refurbished. So we don't do any of our own painting. There's a lot of things that we spend the extra money on to make sure that that isn't on the property, and we send that out to have done.
What's the percentage of new tanks versus used tanks?
There now,
Well, the future. Because most of these are brand-new tanks that on the pallet wrapped up that never seen proper propane.
and the old tanks are gonna get taken away and refurbished.
So the new tanks, part of this license for a lot of brand-new tanks
Yes.
that have never seen propane.
They've never seen propane.
Could I have one say?
Yes.
The tanker trucks have been a problem for a good
Please state your
many
name for the
years.
record, please.
Carol Sheehan, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Pam spoke for our
Okay,
father
thank
and
you.
I. 13 Prospect Street, and where the truck goes in, that's where my bedroom is, right on that corner, when all those trucks go in there. And they do idle many, many nights, especially in wintertime or whatever. And it is constant, and it always has been. I went to Townsend at that time, and we complained, and we got nowhere, so I quit getting oil from them. It doesn't do much good to complain about it, so. but it has been an ongoing problem for many years.
My name is Barbara Angelopoulos. I live at 11 Prospect Street, and I've already discussed it with them downstairs. I have 2 young children, and my problem also is the amount of trucks that go by my house. They don't use they have their own separate way they're supposed to come in with their way. They use my street to do the swing in. And I've had electric wires knocked off from them coming by, coming close, that come up. When it snows out, they come up on my sidewalk. No, I can see you can't see the street, but you have an idea. They come up on the sidewalk, and I have tire tracks. So my concern is having more, and I told you this downstairs, having more propane and everything is gonna increase that traffic. Is there any guarantee, and I said you try to work with it, that you're gonna be able to use your own driveway instead of our street? And if not, who do we complain to, and how does that get rectified?
As we talked downstairs, I believe, and I'm just jogging my memory, back in 1988, when we bought the business from the Elliots, I think that all of our transports, and we were delivering approximately out of that terminal 50% more gallons than we're lifting there today, just because of conservation and attrition and natural gas. We used to bring all of our trucks in from West Main Street. And my recollection is, and we could still do that, my recollection is that we ran into another issue of traffic being held up, making a wide swing on a busy street. And there is any reason why we couldn't reroute our trucks to come in from West Main Street as opposed to going on Prospect Street. My recollection is that was a complaint by someone that when they were coming in that way, there was a little bit of a traffic jam at times or having to slow things down. But there's no reason operationally, Mark, why we couldn't bring the trucks in, particularly the way we're building a circular pattern to keep those transports off of Prospect Street.
We certainly would come in.
And I think that's how it evolved. I think it became a problem coming in off the main street, and so we just started bringing them in off Prospect Street. But operationally, there's no reason why we couldn't reroute those trucks.
And then who, so if you reroute them, say the time constraint, how long are we saying that you talk to all your employees that would no longer do that, you maybe widen your path? Do I call Townsend? Do I call the fire chief? Do I call the police? Do I call everybody? Do I call Phil? Do I call David home and say, listen?
I'd like to think that if you called us, we'd be pretty responsive.
Right.
I know what Mrs. Sheehan said, but we operate in 3 locations in residential neighborhoods. If you know where we are in Danvers, we're right in the middle of a residential neighborhood. We're used to trying to live cooperatively with our neighbors, to be good folks. I don't know what happened with the Sheehans. I don't know that I ever talked to them, but you can certainly call us if there's a problem.
Okay.
And we'll respond. I think the other thing is we've learned some things tonight, although it's a little bit of a surprise to me, the hours of operation that our drivers are on the premises. They don't need to be. So I think that we've maybe gotten a heads up from some of the neighbors who know it better than we do, who I'm not here every day, that we can also change some of those patterns again without impacting our operation.
Dave?
So you mentioned you had other locations. So there's you have 2 other locations?
We actually have 3 locations.
And what's the capacity of those?
In Danvers, we have underground storage of 120,000 gallons with permitting for another 125,000. That's a premises that never had a pre-existing use for propane, so we don't have propane storage there. At our other location, although, as I mentioned, it's in a residential neighborhood where there are trucks, we don't have any bulk storage because it's closer to Boston.
Thank you. You know, I like Phil, Chief, just give me 1 second. I like Phil, I'm concerned of the big jump, you know, and hearing the neighbors' concerns. So what about looking at just doing the 30,000 underground and leaving the above ground at the same capacity? So to Phil's question, is that really gonna, would that stop you from doing the project?
We just add maybe the trucks, because they were missed in the previous one, I believe, right?
Right, we gotta have
Right.
the trucks. That's
9,000.
almost 10,000 gallons right there of trucks.
In order to put the 30,000 in the ground, you're gonna need the trucks.
Right now, they're there. They were missed at the last time. The
So-
trucks are not on the last license.
So you've been storing the trucks there without the license, so you haven't been over capacity? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it depends how many empties they had there.
Okay, so it's a simple question, yes or no? Now I'll go to the operational people. So the trucks have been on the site, so have you been over capacity?
I believe that because we knew that those trucks were missed last time, that we would have been managing the tanks. And there's no question our tanks, since the first time, have declined in volume on the premises.
Okay.
You know, to answer your question directly, David, we could operate without getting the increased licensing for the above-ground tanks if we were to just include the trucks. Let's include the trucks now, perhaps.
They're there anyway, is what you're
Perhaps
telling
an
me.
additional 10,000, and we could operate. The 30,000 is really the operational issue that is really important to us based upon product allocation, demand, and those things.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, you had a question?
In the past, the issues with the odor has come from the smaller tanks that have been stored on site. My suggestion at this point would be to reduce the number of those tanks. What happens, you're always going to have some kind of a residual odor. There is no safety issue as far as, an explosion or something like that is concerned, but you're going to have that residual smell. That's always going to be there. Limit the number of tanks that they keep on site like that would probably be one solution. The other stuff's all going to be in sealed containers, the bobtails and the tank itself.
That's, and I agree with that. We can, anyone that's taken their 20-pounder to get refilled, the minute they take it off, you get a hiss and a smell. I mean, it's not dangerous, but it's just what happens. And anyone that's brought a 20-pounder knows that is what happens when you fill them. They actually have the bleeder screw open and let it release.
Yeah. And is that the small tanks that you're talking about, or you're talking about the big, round, 6 foot high?
The smallest we're gonna store, we have 60s, 120s.
Okay.
We don't keep any 2000s, very limited. We might have 2 1,000-gallon tanks on the property. The big steel, we try not to keep on the property. It's the everyday tanks that we need to keep on the property.
Okay.
So there was, Tilly's has had her hand up there, Mr. Chairman. Tilly, why don't you stand up so we can see and hear you?
Mr. Temple Bay Road, I have a question for the board. How come this is not being brought to the zoning board of appeals? This use is a pre-existing non-conforming use. If he's increasing this, it should be brought to the zoning board and then to the planning board for a site approval. And all of these issues like odor and traffic will be addressed at that time. I don't know what happened in 2010. This is the first time hearing it. If I wasn't here tonight, I wouldn't even know this was going on. So what happened to the process? Can anybody answer me?
I think I can address that. I did have a meeting with the building inspector about site plan review, and it was his opinion that this request for a license wasn't subject to site plan review. I did meet with him before we filed the license application with the board. It's a separate statutory provision, Chapter 148, Section 13. It's really not a zoning issue. It's a storage of explosive or flammable materials.
The application is approved by the fire chief, not anyone else.
Yeah, it's the changes to the property.
If we were to put a garage up or something like that, then that'd be a whole
Right.
different story.
There's no structures being built, per se.
Right. It's fencing.
It's fencing and a concrete pad and an underground tank. So there's no expansion of any square footage of any above-ground building.
Gotcha.
That was what the gist of the discussion.
Can you check that with town council? If I could request that? So that we know once and for all whether this should have been a process that should have been addressed.
I don't see why that would be a problem.
I think we can, right?
Thanks.
I mean, to me, it appears that we're well within our rights as a board to, it's in our purview. But as a second look, I don't mind. I would say, ask Mike to
If I can
pass it along.
If I can say,
Just in
I had
case.
thought the same thing as looking it over. I mean, there is a lot of exhibits here that say, I guess, that we are the licensing
Right.
board and that, but I felt the same way, that I would feel comfortable with town council looking this over.
Any other gentleman behind Lou, please? No, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my name's Christopher Roy. I live at 77 West Main Street, which abuts the property right next to the old way station. My concern is that the diagram shows that you're going to be putting a concrete slab with truck storage that's going to be literally like within a couple feet of my property line. And I'm concerned about the fact that we've been hearing from all the other residents in the area that idling trucks is an issue. And I'm concerned that, you know, my property being right next to that parking lot is going to become an issue. And I just want to know if it's going to be making sure that the trucks that not only are coming in and out of the property, as well as those that are idle in that lot, are going to be taken care of you know, making sure that it doesn't create a large noise and the off hours that seem to be outside of your purview of when you thought they were going to be in for business.
Obviously, want to be able to address that. I think we have willing participants here in the Townsends and.
There's no question, if, you know, if some of the behavior of our personnel or contractors of ours, 5:30 in the morning, round the clock, we could certainly get a log of when the trucks come in there. Just suffice to say, we can modify that behavior to, you know, make sure that we can operate effectively without having our trucks idled at 5:30 in the morning or at 9 o'clock at night. Operationally, other than times of dislocation of product, emergency, allocation, which is it's routine at some points in time in the propane business in the season, but it's the rare exception that we have to operate in those hours.
And 4 or 5 years ago, in all our locations, and unless it's a very rare occasion, our own delivery trucks don't even go out at night. If we have a run out or a problem like that, our service vans do that they all carry 10 to 20 gallons in their trucks, and we address our runouts with cans so we don't go start the trucks up in the middle of the night. And that's been for 4 or 5 years now that's been in effect.
Okay, good. Any other, one more, Lou?
Lou Mamaletti, live at 14 Marlborough Road. I also happen to be the general manager for the water department, and we're on Bolton Street, I guess right across. I don't think this question is directly related as being working for the water department because we're in a butter. This is more of I think this is more of a question as a resident. Is the project, when it's completed, is the intention to pave the whole lot, or is it gonna remain dirt? How does that, I guess I mean, I see a few things up on the drawing here, but I don't see kind of a complete picture of what may be built, and some of that troubles me a little bit, because you're talking about storing things underground, and I'm hearing that there's no explosion or safety concerns, but I think when you confine leaking gas below ground, if it's all paved in, I think you can make the potential for a problem. And I know these facilities probably are designed with, you know, some kind of off-gassing system or something along those lines, similar to other industries. But what I see up there, I guess I don't get a good sense for that right now. And what I also see is an applicant coming in saying it's safe. And I think we're relying on your expertise and the chief's expertise. I don't know, I guess I still feel like this is something that maybe shouldn't we ask somebody else who does this sort of as an opposing opinion? The planning board does it, Concom does it, ZBA does it. Just seeing, and they're also asking to go, you know, whatever, a 600% increase in their business. Maybe it's not all apples to apples here, but I guess it just feels like something that warrants a little bit of a longer look. I'm all for business being enhanced and expanded in town, because God knows we need it, but, some of these things, I guess I just, the above ground stuff, maybe I'm a little less concerned. The stuff that's underground are the things that make me a little nervous. And if some of that stuff is developed in the package, of which, us is, we don't have that, but if some of that's, could be addressed, either if it's addressed tonight, or if it's somebody else, like independently, that looks at this, so if God forbid something goes wrong, at least we can, as a town, know that we had somebody other than the town look at it. I throw that out as an idea, as opposed to this thing being approved like right here, right now.
I mean, tonight is strictly for the license. Anything that gets constructed is gonna go through the building permit process. Will be a full set of plans with details and specifics, and at that point, you probably have engineers that review your plans for you, or something like that, where that can be done. Tonight is strictly for the license, for that piece of
But by then
land.
you already have the license to move forward. Is there any,
It's so we can have increased license for the piece of land. Really not dealing with any structures, so on and so forth. We're gonna follow the FBA codes. I've been building bulk plants since 1990. I got my PE license in fire protection in all New England states. What we do for a living. We make it safe. I want my name on the newspaper at 11 o'clock news, Yeah, done safe, and this is the safest way to go underground. We're really not changing the operation of the facility.
Mike, I have a question. I understand this is a license hearing, so I definitely get that and kind of compartmentalizing that part of it for this. But if they were going to be putting in tanks and everything else, wouldn't they have to go through planning and everything like that?
I don't know about planning, but the building inspector would direct them
On where to go?
where to go,
Okay.
whether it be zoning or, probably be
I would think
zoning.
it would be ZBA, wouldn't it?
That would be my first thought, but, the building inspector, it would be his call.
Okay.
And also, I'm on the plan board in my town too, but usually tanks are like auxiliary uses and not primary uses, and it's usually allowed in the zoning bylaws as an auxiliary use, which falls this under.
Okay.
And he's the code enforcement officer as well. It's not just building. He'd make the call.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask the chief a question. If that's
Sure.
okay. Chief. Yes, you, Mr. Chief.
I'm sorry, I was reading something.
Hey, I have a question for you. Have we any information on any best practices in terms of capacity in residential areas? Is there any studies or any recommendations from whatever federal or state regulatories?
Right off the top of my head, I'm not familiar with any. Have you?
Not
I just don't know if 60,000 plus is considered way over or average or under what a recommended maximum capacity could be or should be on a property, if there isn't even such a recommendation out there.
I'm not aware of any.
How much actual product are you gonna have on site? You're gonna have 30,000 gallons underground, a potential for 9,900 gallons in 3 bobtail trucks. And the rest are gonna be
Cylinders.
empty cylinders that have to be licensed because they potentially could hold.
That's
what are
correct.
not going to,
That's why
correct?
we put them on the permit, yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, while those numbers are kind of scary, as a whole,
Doesn't seem like much, right?
it's not really gonna be.
Yeah, there's the safety aspect of this, which is from the capacity that you have or are asking for. And then there's the actual operation, which, we've got to consider here as well, which you've been, have had, done a good job in helping us understand, and the residents to also share some of their concerns on there. So if we ask you to come back with a counter proposal for your license to reduce the amount of on-site above-ground storage, that is, I suspect that would have an impact on the amount of traffic on the site because you wouldn't have as much storage, or would it not?
The only increased traffic that I can see is the transport.
I think in all fairness, there may be somewhat of a reduced amount of traffic to the extent there wouldn't be another tractor trailer coming in and dropping loads of tanks.
Right.
If we limited the amount of above-ground storage
Right.
and reduced what we're requiring tonight, an additional 30,000, as I said, we can operate the business with less than what we're requesting.
Do you have a proposal you could make tonight, Jim?
Can I throw something out, Mr. Chairman? How about 22,220 above ground and the 30,000 underground? Could you live with that?
Yes, we could.
Yes, we could, absolutely.
That would be no expansion of tanks, but would include the bobcats.
Yeah.
Right. Because basically all we're doing is adding the trucks you already have on the site.
Right.
Which really shouldn't be there because you're over, in a way, at times.
Right.
So all we would do is that gives you 10,000, and then we give you the underground tank. You see how it goes, and if you want to come back at a future date for additional store, we'll see how it's going with the neighbors. We'll see if some of these things have been corrected and adjusted, and everybody's happy. We may look at, me personally, I'll speak for myself, would be willing to look at it down the road and see how things are going.
We would be willing to accept 22.5. And I think the deputy chief pointed out correctly, the absolute maximum that we actually are gonna have on there is going to be the 30 plus the 99, and that's really the maximum capacity. The cylinders are there because we need to have them licensed, but in fact, there's no point.
But we are going to increase delivery to the 30,000 gallon tank, which that's more traffic in the neighborhood. And so I wouldn't want to compound that even more by adding the additional cylinders, drop off, moving them out, moving them in, send them to be overhauled, new ones coming in. That's going to add a lot. To me, that would add even a lot more. If you're going to say 2 more deliveries a week on the 30,000 gallon tank, then I could probably live with that. That helps you expand your business a little bit, and also keeps the neighbors happy. You hear the concerns tonight about when the trucks are coming, the idling, where they're being parked, all those types of issues really should be addressed. But on good faith, I would be willing to go to 22,220 and the 30,000 underground tank, knowing that that's it for now. But address the issues of the neighborhood, and then later on come back and see us, and we'll see how things are going.
I can assure you that will be addressed tomorrow morning.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I just have a question just regarding a procedure here. So what's our, this is a license that's an indefinite, once we provide the license, it's not renewable every year, is it?
It's permanent with the land.
It's permanent with the land, that's right. What is our recourse if there's any issues on the site? I mean, I imagine that our recourse is very limited. If
Well,
we-
the
Enforcement
police,
officer.
the fire department has inspectional issue, authority. And if there's traffic issues, the police can handle it. The timing of it, that the police can't, unless we had we have a construction ordinance that you can't start your trucks up before 7, your equipment and trucks before 7 a.m.
If I could just point out, there is an annual registration process for the license, so the license has to
State.
be.
Permit.
No, locally.
Oh, fire department.
22,220.
Through the town clerk.
So there is a process for annual review and registration of the license, and I presume the town could withhold that registration, as an enforcement power.
I mean, if there's code violations, we have it.
Right,
We
that's a whole
can
nother-
stop the whole operation anytime we want. Basically,
There are
enforcement
extensive
officer.
regulations,
Right.
as I think the chief will attest to at the state fire marshal's level, regulating how this is all installed and operated, as well as the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association regulations.
And in all honesty, if the track record's been has been good. The communication has been good. So I would assume if there's issues that management would address it right away. Ownership would step right in, address our concerns.
Dave, I think we heard tonight that although we think we've tried to be good neighbors, we can certainly improve.
Right.
And as my brother said, that's gonna be addressed first thing tomorrow morning.
Right.
Because we control the folks who are driving the trucks, who are starting the trucks, and who are delivering and exiting product.
And what I would like to see is just a request is that make those changes, maybe within 60 days, have a meeting with the neighborhood, and let's see how it's going. Follow up, please follow up with the neighbors. You know, they have to live there every day too. And I know you have to make a living too, so.
If I may,
Yes, Gary.
question as to procedure, so maybe more to Mike. Now, if we mentioned earlier about having A&P look us over, we'll make sure that we are actually the proper licensing authority. I know we've got these people here telling us, I mean, would we continue this hearing to perhaps our next board, to another night?
I don't
Rather
think
than-
that there's any question that you're the proper licensing authority, and I think the chief will attest to that as well, and he wrote a
Well, I
memorandum
think
several
we-
years ago about that. I think what I heard about the issue to be referred to town council is whether or not the project was subject to site plan review, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, just to have our council look it over, so would we continue the hearing until we, would that be our procedure, I guess, is the
think,
question
right?
I'm asking? Typically, I don't
Well, if
think, I
you're
can't
not
remember.
gonna make a decision, then yes, you have to make, you should make a continuance, because then you don't have to do all the re-notifications
Mhm.
and for the meeting. I do agree that this is the proper licensing authority.
Okay.
If there's a zoning issue, I think that should be taken up with the building and with the code enforcement officer.
Right, I think we should go ahead and make a decision and let somebody else, let legal counsel tell us that we're not the, we're not the proper body, but for now, I think we are. I mean, we've never been told otherwise. I mean, it's good to follow up to make sure, but, I mean, I don't see it, that we should stop the decision-making process at this point. We've been doing it for how long? It's never gone to planning board before, or site plan review before.
Yeah, that's not our issue. That's
Right, it's not our issue.
Different
Right.
jurisdiction.
Right.
So, gentlemen, I will say this, that you guys, you've been a good neighbor in the community, and maybe there's some issues you can deal with the neighbors that we expect you to, and you have stated so. I know as a frequent resident, or frequent traveler into the American Legion Park, when there's any type of activities there, whether you know it or not, we're all parking on your land, and I haven't seen any challenge to that. We appreciate that. I think that there's, you know, for me personally, you guys you've been in business a long time. You run a good business. I have talked to many people about Townsend Oil in the past. I've never heard any negative comments from you or about your business operation. I think that there's, you know, we do want to see, it's a growing community, and the community has growing needs, and in order to address that, you've got to build its capacity. I get the fact it's in a residential neighborhood. This town was built without zoning many years ago, and you know, for those residents who live next to it, I certainly can. I'm sensitive to the fact that there's challenges with living next to a business like that. Unfortunately, you know, you've selected to live there, and hopefully the expectations of living there isn't as bad as what you're making it sound like, that we can go forward and fix. So I think that we should go ahead and make a decision tonight.
Good.
Could we ask that restrictions could be considered to put in like they did at the building supply for limiting hours of operation for trucks and limiting the idling time to 10 minutes, and those be enforced? I mean, this just doesn't seem, and we are not anti-business and we're not against growth, but if you'd like, you know, think about what this would be like if they built it across the street from your house, and we're just asking that we've got to learn to coexist, and we don't have that luxury of having a say in when the trucks are delivered, and it's certainly not adding to the value of our house, our property, or the neighborhood.
Mike, let me.
Well,
Okay, I was just
those
gonna-
are zoning issues.
That's-
They're not licensing issues.
Right.
And if you want to add restrictions to the zoning regulations, then you go see the planning board and make suggestions to them to make amendments to the zoning regulations. Or you could even petition, do yourself a petition at town meeting for a zoning
board.
amendment.
Yeah, zoning board change. a zoning bylaw change?
Yes.
But that also groups, that's not specific to a site, that also doesn't, I mean, maybe I'm getting off the.
Well, then you
path.
get into spot zoning, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
that's a little difficult, but.
When I questioned about town council, it was no way near an amendment. This was pre-existing. They had coal when they were building that place, so they started up that business. So, and then there was a fire at the coal in the back, which was a hazardous site with the state for years and years and years. I don't know if it ever got cleared up as far as the site because of the water trying to douse the fire where the coal was stored in the back. So what I'm not saying that you're not entitled to give the license. I'm just saying there's another step that has to go before you make that decision, in my opinion. You know, that you go to the zoning board of appeals because this is a pre-existing use. It doesn't matter that you're gonna add any buildings. It's the use that is increasing.
So Tilly, it's not a change in the use of the property, and they did go to the building inspector to get advice on that, and the building inspector did give town advice.
I understand that.
So if you want to have a conversation with the building inspector, I would recommend that you go ahead and do that.
Well, I think as selectmen that you are in charge of the process, in my opinion.
We're
And
responsible for the
I think
license.
that town council will direct you to what the process is.
The building inspector will have final say on what they build,
Over
and
the attorney in town?
with advice from the attorney.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And as you heard earlier, we are certainly gonna have that conversation. So.
Because one of the requirements with the zoning board of appeals is that you can carry on a pre-existing non-conforming use, providing it's not increased enough to affect the neighborhood. And this sounds like it has the earmarks of increasing the business.
So I think I have all the utmost confidence in our building inspector working with you and working with legal counsel to determine whether or not they have to go through site plan review. And they're on notice that they've heard that, and we're on notice as well. So I absolutely respect what you're saying and appreciate it.
All right, any further comments from the audience? Neighbors, abutters?
I had one. I just simply would say that you had recommended that Townsend Oil talk to the neighbors and come up with a plan.
Yep.
I think that part of that plan should include a traffic plan of how they intend of traffic coming in, because the neighbors on Prospect Street are currently affected by the traffic as it currently stands. If you change all the traffic to West Main Street entrance, then you're sitting trucks idle in front of my house, having to sit waiting for the traffic to be able to let them in and out, and that can cause an additional issue of idle time that is generated by traffic and not by wasting of fuel of just sitting empty trucks.
But the only issue on that is that if they're coming from Groveland, right? If they're coming the other way, they're gonna take a right
still
into
gonna
the
have to.
property. If they're coming from Haverhill, that's what the issue is, crossing over, is that what you're saying? Otherwise, they're just gonna be able to go by the
Where
Ridgedale.
they're coming in, where they're coming out. It's just a matter of, you know, how are they coming in and coming out? Are they going to address the issues of going into the neighbors'
Understood.
properties, of running into the sidewalks and everything like that?
One of the things, we have a very similar situation in Danvers, and one of the things I think maybe we've done a better job on is communicating with the neighbors there, but on this particular issue, Mark, I think you'd confirm this, what we do is we alternate the streets that comes in. We have a couple different ways, so we don't overburden one street, and it seems to be an acceptable compromise. And so we could do something like the same. I've heard a lot about Prospect Street. We don't bring them in past Jura, but the idea would be maybe there's some sort of a balance. But the charge that we heard tonight is that we should really communicate with the neighbors, try to do the very best we can to coexist safely and in a way that's, you know, we're sensitive to the community.
I'm not arguing that you should not use the West Main Street entrance because I live there, and you shouldn't use the Prospect Street entrance because they've made comments. I think that a happy medium would be acceptable.
Okay.
Lou?
One point to that too, worth noting here is, I think the town's actually working on the redesign of West Main Street. right in that area, so
The license,
if there's,
every,
entrance and
every year.
egress issues there, it may.
Mike can address.
Yeah, we don't wanna involve Peter.
Somebody should bring it to the attention of the engineer designing it, that it's a concern, maybe there's a widening issue there, or
Mhm.
maybe the road's not as wide as it's supposed to be, or a part of that's, based upon usage.
Is that underway?
It's in the design stage right now. I think they're trying to take it from 25 to 75% design. It was something that was put aside several years ago and recently picked back up.
So Peter's working on that, right?
Correct.
Yeah, maybe we should consult with Peter also,
Yeah,
meet with
he's
Peter
working
Durkee.
I believe the engineering firm is Bayside Engineering. I also didn't get the question answered about,
Yeah, agreed.
are they paving the parking lot, or is it dirt? I've driven by it 100 times just like everybody else, but don't think I've really looked in there and thought about it too much.
Basically, obviously, putting concrete down in a few areas, the rest of the yard, yeah, the council's want to do.
I think our plan was the impact of that are non,
Regurgitated.
right, non.
And it's something where to leak underground. I mean, I'm not trying to make a problem yet, but I'm hoping you'll answer the thing so me personally, I can feel better about it.
Okay.
Is if one of these tanks that has liquid propane, I guess it's not flammable at that point, but if something leaks and ruptures and volatilizes up into the soil and it's pinned in, and Linpack is fairly tight, how does the area get vented? Or is there a provision for that?
The whole tank itself is anywhere from 15, 16 inch thick. It's very thick.
Sure.
Chances of a leak in that tank is, I won't even talk about it. Doesn't happen. The leaks are gonna happen where the fittings are, where the piping's going in and out.
Okay.
That's exposed. That's the square here in the middle. You'll be able to look right down at the top of the tank. So any leaks are gonna be coming out of the ground. So you'll be able to smell it.
The top of the tank is visible from above.
There'll be a cover you lift up, but it's not solid ground.
Okay, so
It's like a hatch.
basically it's vented to the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
All right, I'm gonna close the public meeting, and then we can have discussion, further discussion if we need.
Do we have to take a vote on closing the meeting, Mike, or no?
No, just close.
Chairman so declares, okay.
So, any further discussion?
I don't know if I missed something. Well, Lou was asking his question, and Mike and Phil were having a conversation. I just didn't know if there was anything to be shared or.
Is there an expiration on the license or anything?
It needs to be annually recertified.
Meaning renewed annually,
Well.
sort of, approved
the
annually?
license- No, it just has,
It's a permit.
It's a registration
it
process.
has to be registered annually.
Okay.
That's what the law calls for.
Okay.
It it allows the chief the opportunity to review the operations, the safety of it on an annual basis.
Okay.
One other quick question. So if we give you authority to do the underground tank, how quickly will it be installed and up and running?
Yesterday. As soon as we
Trying
can.
to, in light of the supply situation, which is, in our periodicals, you would see is somewhat dire, we're trying to get into the ground this year, so we would have that storage capacity this season.
And the reason for my question is that if you were gonna get my vote tonight, I would want to see you go through this, the winter season and come back in March with the neighbors. And let's have a little round table, even if it's a 15-minute, how's it going? What are the concerns? And what has been addressed and what has not been addressed? Or what are new issues as a result of this? So I would ask, to get my vote, I would ask for not a public hearing, but a meeting with the selectmen, which everybody loves to come and meet with us and spend Monday nights with us. But sometime in March, in one of our March meetings, this way we got pretty much through the winter season. I want to see what the concerns are of the neighborhood. Okay, so that we make sure that those get addressed.
And we'll make ourselves available, that's great to come back in March, but if there's a concern before that.
Right. Well,
We'll
again,
request it.
trying to keep you out of town hall to work it out with the neighbors. Would love to have a March and everybody walks in and says, hey, everything's great, everything's awesome. Okay, so that would be the goal.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you heard tonight, what you heard. Concerns from the neighbors, there's traffic concerns, there's, the aesthetics and the fence and that, and thinking about, doing what you need to do, talking to the building inspector again to make sure that, you don't have, or you do have site plan review that you need to go through. And I think just consistent, regular communication with the neighbors. If the neighbors have issues, that they know how to get in touch with you, and vice versa. I think that's wildly important, and I know your facility in Danvers, and that is a even more densely populated area than what we're talking about here, and you seem to be coexisting pretty well over there. So, look at some best practices. Maybe you can adapt from what you're doing over there, bring them into here. Maybe look around and see if there are any best practices that you might be able to bring to the table for both facilities that you haven't thought of yet. So it's room for improvement. We appreciate, the residents coming in tonight and expressing your thoughts and concerns and issues, and we appreciate everybody's time.
I'll just say you heard Mark make the commitment effective tomorrow morning. Hopefully the neighbors will start to see changes. We're gonna communicate with them. I think there are some things, Stuart, that we can bring from what we've done in Danvers, some things we've learned there in a very densely, populated. So we've heard those concerns and we'll respond.
Great. Okay. Gentlemen, any further questions? Gary, do you have any questions?
I'll wait till after we hear a motion or something, and then
Okay.
perhaps.
Well, that's why I have a procedural issue, Mr. Chairman. So the application has been submitted with the request for 72-220. They don't have to file a new application, right? We can just make an
We
amendment.
can amend it tonight?
We should, with their approval, amend it.
Okay. This is a procedural question.
Yep.
So do we,
All right, so-
do we make the motion and then vote this down and then?
No,
Motion on
I'd
the one?
amend the application and.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the application as submitted by Townsend Oil to have capacity of $22,220
Gallons.
dollars, so you can tell where I come from. Gallons, above ground, and a 30,000 gallon tank below ground, as presented.
Say that number again, David.
22,220, which gives them 10,000 extra gallons for the trucks that they're supposed.
That's on site.
It's on site already. So we're really not increasing any capacity technically. We're just giving them the official authority to have those trucks on site. And we're giving the 30,000 gallons underground.
I'd just like to clean that motion up just a little bit, if it's okay.
I'm still open, I'm still rambling, so.
He's been writing one.
You writing one? A little more? All right, add to it.
Well, so.
There's been no second.
Yeah, I know, so
Yeah,
keep
let's
going.
try this. Mr. Chair, I move to amend the existing license held by Townsend Oil Company to store flammable material for Georgetown Realty Trust pursuant to MGL 148 subsection 13 to allow a maximum of 30,000 gallon underground storage tank and a maximum of 22,000 gallon storage tank above ground of LP, liquid propane gas, at the property at 75 West Street, Georgetown.
It's 22,220.
Right, if you amend that to 22,220.
22,220.
Second.
All right, discussion. Well, all in favor?
No, we
No,
have discussion
let's
phase,
have
right?
discussion first.
Just that, with that change, I mean, are we changing, I believe on the first page, total quantity of all flammable gases, so we're gonna be changing that to 52,220?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion on that?
I changed it on the application.
Okay, so the application has been,
Yes.
now, again, if I may, the motion was to grant the license with these changes.
Amend the existing
Amend
license.
the
Amend the
existing
existing.
license with the 22,220
Okay.
and the 30,000 underground.
But we're still voting on the license with the amendments. So we're voting on the amendments, that's what I'm trying
One motion to cover it all.
to, okay.
Yes.
The one he seconded.
Right.
Okay. Now, the other question I have is to procedure, and that is the fact that we are the licensing authority, and that's what we are granting, and that's what we feel that we can legally do. Any other issues that may have come before us actually would end up being handled by our building
Code enforcement.
course, yeah, okay. And we feel that we are okay with his guidance.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yes, just to reiterate, let's get the parties together, get the concerns taken care of, and let's all agree to meet back here in March of 2014. Agreed?
Agreed. David, could I, Phil, you brought up the issue of the easement. I know it's probably separate and apart from this, but we would be willing to discuss that if that was something the town wanted to clean up.
Yeah.
I think it's worth cleaning it up, taking a look at it.
Okay.
I've got it on my list.
Yep, absolutely. We don't like loose ends if we can avoid them, you know?
Just one more question, if I may. This is it's Commonwealth of Massachusetts, okay, Town of Georgetown. So this is basically our license. This isn't anything that should be changed or anything going before I mean, you will have to change it if you have to go before any state authorities, I guess, but you don't have to. We are,
You're it.
oh, like the ABC.
So I get paid the big bucks, Gary.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, any further discussion from the board? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion passes.
All right, we'll see
Thank
you.
you, gentlemen, thank you,
you very much.
residents.
Thank you.
Have a good night. I am going to bounce around a little bit here.
Thank you for your time, really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Yes, we'll take a,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we have a 2-minute recess.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, we are in recess. Call before midnight tonight.
Bring us back from recess.
All right, we are back from recess. Do we have to take a motion? No, okay. All right, so I'm gonna move this around a little bit. I'm gonna move on to new business, Georgetown Liquors, change of directors. Dana, you wanna come up and we can get you out of here? Sorry to hold you up.
It's all right.
Appreciate your patience.
Liquors.
Back again.
So you're back again because we had to do, what again was it? Or I'm trying to remember here what we did last time.
This was a change of directors.
Oh, that's right.
ABCC sent back the application because Dana lives in Maine.
Maine, yeah.
And they had him remove him as the only director, I believe it
Correct.
was.
Yeah.
And then they, when the application went in, they said someone has to be a director, has to be a resident of Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
So they put Lisa back.
Right.
Which
So-
ABCC.
So Lisa's back now.
She was on, then off,
Off,
then on.
now she's back.
I know.
And it was ABCC's mistake because they told him to just have him, and then that's what he did, and then they sent it in. They said, "Oh, sorry, we didn't realize you lived in Maine," and
Correct.
so that's why he's back.
Okay. So this is as simple as adding Lisa Burke to your board of directors.
Which was on in the first place.
Okay.
Now here it says she's 0%, is that?
That's correct.
But she is
She's the secretary.
back on as the director though,
Yes.
okay.
We're at 0% too.
Yeah, well, I know. Correct. All right, license is in order, no issues, everything's up to date, taxes are all paid, Dana's a good citizen and good, we appreciate everything you do for the town.
Thank you.
You do a lot. Thank you, we appreciate it. Any questions, any issues, nothing?
Yeah, I'm related to
Okay.
this. When we're gonna see the donut shop open?
I think they said 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Oh, really?
Okay,
Okay.
there we go. Good.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the change of directors to add Lisa C. Burke as secretary on the board of directors for the application from the Georgetown Liquors.
Second.
All right, so moved. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. You are in business, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dana.
Yep.
Try again.
Have a good night.
We're gonna make that Pats game.
Don't come
You see?
back.
We're gonna make that Pats game.
Oh, you guys, we have to do the,
Yeah, okay.
the financial plan. I'm gonna move along to the Parks and Recreation list of properties for discussion, so we have representatives. I think, Mr. Demento, are you gonna come up and,
I'm gonna come up.
Suzanne, you're gonna represent the Park and Rec? So, tell us what you're thinking. We have a letter here.
Of course, the person who wrote the letter is not here, but I'll represent them.
That's all right, we'll give her a hall pass.
Somewhere over
I
Baltimore right
gotta
now
put
on
on
a
her
plane.
mindset, let me see, okay. No, there's some confusion about the different parks that we actually oversee, there's some new ones in line,
All right, so,
and the interface on some of them.
okay, so I'm just gonna, if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna read this just for the record. So, this was from Juliet Rec, who's a Park and Rec member. It says, "Hi, Stu and Board of Selectmen. Here's a list that was agreed on by Park and Rec members on September 25, 2013. The current properties in town that are managed by Georgetown Park and Rec. We'd like to have an official vote by the Board of Selectmen as to if we do properly manage all of these parks. If some discrepancy, an official town vote, an article at fall town meeting, etc. American Legion Park, Pentucket Pond Beach, Harry Murch Veteran Park, Civil War Monument Park, West Street Soccer Fields, Little Hills Soccer Field, area across from Harmony Cemetery for future access to Rails Trail, East Main Street Recreational Park, Martel Way." And Janet, I have a question because there was a note from Harry Lacatilia that said parcels should include lot 16-4, Old Mason property. Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, well, that was a piece that was,
that
we
part of the-
didn't get taxes on since 1954, that Harry and the CPC worked on getting a couple of years ago. I don't know if that was actually given to anybody.
Where is this property? I
It's
don't.
out in the green
There's a map on the
It's out in the
next page.
piece, it's out in
It's
the.
a 16
it's out in
foot
the
4. Is that
proposed
part
green-
of the skate park, proposed skate park?
It's
No?
actually out in that, if you know, if
It's
you
out
talk.
in that parcel,
It's in
though,
the,
isn't it?
you know, we always talk about that green belt, the green belt area. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, whatever you call it, yeah.
Greenway area. There was a number of parcels that were identified. That was one that was we got for free because they hadn't paid taxes.
Okay.
Now,
So I had a question, why, it says, hi all, this is from Harry, Locatilia. I'd like to add that the Park and Rec list of parcels should also include lot 16-4, the old Mason property, which was taken for tax purposes as municipal land, not under the control of the Concom. It should be determined by the BOS that the parcel would be used for Park and Rec purposes under the management and control of the Park and Rec Commission, along with some possible future water department use for a loop in the water system.
yeah, I mean, I haven't walked the piece. I don't, if it's 99% underwater, it doesn't really do us much good. But if it isn't, I mean, down the road, it could be a potential piece for, I mean, it's.
So I guess what we could do is is act on the ones that you've submitted, ask you guys to go back
Yes.
and review and see if that makes sense.
Right, the other
for you.
question, the other thing is, for instance, West Street is one we manage, but there's also the land is actually owned
by the water department.
So there's some parcels or some parks there that are under our control 100%, and there's some parks that may not be.
Okay.
Owning and managing may not be the same thing.
Right.
So this is about management day to day and being able to do what you need to do and have it under some purview within town.
West Street, we can do some things, but we can't do others. So,
For instance,
West Street, we can't
fertilize,
expand at all.
stuff like that.
We can't fertilize,
Yeah.
and.
But you can put a comfort castle out there for everybody and stuff like that.
We can't expand, which would, so there's some limitations.
Okay.
And also, we've promised not to expand upon it because we're only supposed to be on there for 15, 20 years, about 30 or 40 years ago. So
Of course.
they've been limiting, we haven't been able to expand parking or entrance because their idea was this is a temporary solution.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes.
So, we're gonna put this list together. All these, you've discussed all these at your board meeting, I'm assuming, except for the one that Harry is adding.
Right.
And I would say let's hold off on that one. The second question is, are there any other boards that take exception? And I see some hands going up in the room. So that would be my next question, and we'll give them a chance to talk about, if they have any objection to this. And the third thing, which I think is very important, because Phil and I both personally have had experience with this, is that we want to get the message back to Parks and Rec about the uses of these parks and what those uses are. And I'm specifically talking about American Legion. We nearly had a brawl down there, and Phil and I were involved.
No, we weren't fighting. We were just there.
Almost, because there was
That was a
people.
different
There was a group down there drinking. They were there all day, and I, wanted to know, first of all, why are you down here drinking all day? And again, you can't be there 24 hours a day, and I'm not blaming anybody. All I want to know is I want you to work with the police department, work with this board. If we have to put some bylaws in place on the use of that American Legion, we need to do it, and we need to do it for the next town meeting, because that was a potential serious situation down there.
I sat with the chief of police, we looked over the bylaws, and the idea was to propose, and we have bylaws in place, and we're supposed to propose other ones in case we need to expand upon. We didn't make the fall town meeting because there wasn't one.
But no, I'm saying,
But we will,
right.
before the closing of the next meeting, if there's any additional bylaws that we need to solidify that. We had questions about the whole thing with CPC money being expended down there, does that open up? And I asked for that legal determination, it seems like.
Sorry.
Legal said no, so that opens up that we can protect the whole area for the town residents of Georgetown if we wish. We're just making sure that's rock solid before we did anything more.
As long as it's on your agenda, that's.
Right, and I think the bylaw was a town meeting, so I think we may be able to just enforce an existing bylaw, but if we wanna.
And we have spoke with the police and they have increased. There been a cruiser down there a couple times a day. We spoke to them after, we had 2 more incidents there. And they come down there a few more times than they did before.
Well, again, I just want something in place that
Yeah.
would prevent people just showing up there doing whatever they want to do. Whether that's a sticker system, whether that's a permit, whatever that is.
Okay.
I don't know that, I wouldn't want to know that.
We had talked about
Right.
that, right?
Yeah, I'm
At your
concerned.
Park and Rec meeting before, is it to be stickered or not?
Right,
You
and
know,
again,
it's-
I'm just relaying the message,
Yep.
a strong message that.
What was the party that
Controls
was
need to be
there?
in place. We can talk about that specifically later, but, you know, it could have got ugly, and it was
And
no
one of the
need for it to happen.
One of the concerns I have, with still an open concern, is that's listed as a potential parking area for the
rail trail.
Rails Trail. And no one actually asked us about that.
Well, then the communication needs to go out, because.
Well, I think I mean.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I would suspect that most people who are gonna jump on the rail trail are gonna be from the local area around here. There's other areas, there'll be other people.
But once you open that parcel to mixed use of both town residents and non-town residents, do you open up the whole
Is it
parcel?
open to Georgetown residents only? Is there a sign down there that
Yes,
says that?
there is a
I
bu-
just don't work.
There's
Yes,
been a-
14
it's posted 4 different times. Four of the signs are removed for the winter, but the one main sign is
Yeah.
right when you go in the, go into the restroom. It's right there on the right-hand side.
So it's not a problem yet.
Yeah.
Right,
We don't
I'm
know
saying-
if it's gonna be a problem.
No, but we want to address that issue, make sure that
Yep.
that doesn't become an issue, stickling point down the road.
And I think we can have those discussions,
Sure.
board to board, along with the Rail Trail Committee, to
Right.
talk about that. Okay.
Yeah. So the other 360 days a year is fantastic down there, just so you know. Dave and I were just caught one of those days.
You know, Phil's a troublemaker. He's always causing
Well,
trouble.
I tell you, the one thing, since I'm on TV, and I haven't been on TV much, the water counts this year were all under 50. And if you know, 260-something closes a beach. A lot of the other beaches were closed, and we were under 50, which is, and actually, the first week we were 3, and I made the mistake of saying, God, it'll never get any better than this, and then the week after it was 2. I mean, it's amazing water
Right,
counts.
right.
The water's been very good, and that's a kudos to both, a couple of people, the Board of Health, the Conservation Commission, Peter Durkee, making changes to stormwater runoff, so. that-
And well, the only good thing about that, with that real good water, the mosquitoes love it.
Yeah.
So they breed even twice as fast.
City slicker here.
Yeah. You should see us playing mush ball.
Yeah.
We hit more mosquitoes than we do the ball, but that's a different story.
So, Mr. Chair, I know there's the historical committee is here. I'm actually on it, but I'm going to let Ed, if you wouldn't mind, come up, and I'd love to hear from you in terms of your thoughts. I know
Yep.
in our experience working with you, we've had a couple of minor issues come up, but we've worked through them together on some of the historic parks in here. But
I just request we have a standard operating procedure, how we do things in those. There's 2 sites that are in a contention with the historical. We just have a verified procedure how we go about doing things there.
That's fine. It's it's purely communication, and that would take
Yeah.
care of that. But Ed, I'd love to have you kind of give your thoughts.
What you said was exactly the issue. I think communication was the thing. We had a little slip up when the Harry Murch Park was completed, in that we didn't see what was being done until it was a completed project already. It turned out very nice. There was some great mums that were planted. I think it was Memorial Day, wasn't it?
Yes.
And Peter Durkee was a little upset as well. Some of the holes and stuff that were dug, we had just planted seed, and it was nicely mowed, and it was, we spent a lot of dough at the Harry Murch Park. As you
No
know.
good deed goes unpunished, they say, and they put some beautiful mums in there, and then without thinking of any unintended consequences of having the effort to mow around it, and then to have to pull the mums up,
Well, once they
and then
were
replant
full,
it and
that's-
stuff, so
that
we
was
just
the-
didn't.
That was the issue. So basically, there's only 2 areas that I'm really concerned about. Harry Murch Park is one, and the other is the Civil War Monument. Both of them are historically very important for the town. Murch Park going back to the 1800s, and Civil War Monument, as you know, there's been a lot of recent work done there.
Looks good, though.
Thanks to the CPC funding for both of those projects, as a matter of fact.
Thanks for leading with
All we
that.
need is some lead time. Let us know what is being planned, how it's maintained, and whatever is out of our hands. And between the highway department and Parks and Rec, they've done a fine job, and we have no complaints on that. But those 2 areas, in the future, if something is planned, and I spoke to Peter Durkee on this, I guess if there was something that was like a movable cart, if you wanted to fill it up with flowers or ornaments or whatever on certain occasions, at least could be wheeled away, and you don't
Like
have
a wheel
to
at
tear up
home.
the turf to get at this stuff.
Yeah,
Other than that, everything else is fine.
I saw one at the Newburyport, the yard sale place there. What's the what's the Newburyport down the waterfront?
Todd Farm?
Todd, no, not Todd Farm, Newburyport.
Oh, Newburyport.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I
That
know
little
you're
big,
talking-
that big,
yeah.
they
What,
have
the
a,
oldies building thing?
yeah, they
Yeah.
have
In the
a,
back,
they
yeah.
had
The
a
big
carriage
barn.
that we could load it with flowers or put Santa Claus on. That way it wouldn't ruin the whole,
Yeah, something portable would be perfect.
something portable.
Right, so Ed, could I
Sort of your house, though.
suggest this? Could we just come up with a simple process document that
Yeah.
it's formal, where we just say, look, if any communication that, if you want anything to be changed, done, planted, or whatever, you just give us
Tell you
this
what,
letter.
It's your decision. 10 years ago when I'm gone, they'll be able to pick it up and they won't have to call me. And they say, what is that, who did that? And it just makes it nice and easy.
Yeah, I think a
You know,
maintenance plan,
Yeah,
you know,
fine.
and a formal communication plan.
yeah.
A quick question, the flags?
Pardon?
The flags?
Flags, yeah.
Do you not want those on the
No,
ground?
terrific.
Okay, all right.
Those are
Okay.
nice. Did a very good job, by the
Okay.
way. One other thing I did not mention is the rail trail. You had one area here across from Mahabharati Cemetery. What the folks who were doing the rail trail had asked the historical commission to do at one point was to figure out some signage.
Right.
And a lot of it has to do with the early mills that used to be there, and I came in with a scheme that showed 5 different signs and a little brief history. Whether that's funded by CPC or the state is something that we have to work out, but again, if they're gonna be doing or maintaining that, let us know. We've sort of spotted where the 5 might be placed over the course of the rail trail. Other than that, everything else is.
So now that I say I don't want this, now that I say the historical's got 2 places, we're getting a lot of pressure from the Conservation Commission to tear down some of the old ice house that's on American Legion as part of the 2 park project.
Great history on the ice house.
Well, they want us to tear down half the foundation, so I'm just saying, if you have reservations as a historical society, that should or should not happen.
Yeah.
I'm willing
in.
to work with you on that issue.
Yeah, but some of the signage, we wanted to point out where they used to be and the products that they turned out and.
Where the heck is the
Does
ice
the
house?
ice house exist right now, or is it
No,
just a
the ice
foundation?
house is, there's a huge foundation, they used to get the ice
And store it?
and bring it down to Gloucester for the fishing industry, so
Yeah.
the train used to show up
Oh,
and
interesting.
load up all the ice and
Oh, so
all
the foundation's still there?
foundation's still
Okay,
there.
I thought
Is it along
The enormous barns.
Between the,
They used to be stored in the barns and
Right.
kept.
It burned down, I bet.
Yeah, and kept.
Like every other
covered with
building.
Sawdust in order to use it during the.
between
summer-
the lower
during the summer
playground and the
months.
upper playground is the foundation
Oh,
pieces.
okay.
And along the waterfront, you can see the foundation
Oh, okay.
piece.
Wow, I
Gotcha.
didn't know
Cool.
that.
That's
That's
paths.
pretty cool.
So,
You other thing too, on,
Thanks,
on,
thanks,
on
Ed.
talking about flags, you know, the fire department has the task of, when they need to be lowered, of hitting all of, you know, working on all the flags in all of these parks. So we've got that nailed down too, which is really good.
Yeah.
You know, because that was one of my, one of the things that I had asked them to
Yeah.
do.
No one knew who was
Yeah,
doing
who
it.
was doing it,
Yeah.
and, you know, so that's official duty for the fire department, which we really appreciate them doing that in all the parks.
That is
Yeah.
nice.
It's very
Yeah, I was tired of leaving work early.
Right.
Really early.
Well, we did, yeah.
Like getting to work and driving
And then
back.
if we missed, if we missed
military
something.
blood, doesn't that military blood get up?
We were
get up early?
criticized.
I was expecting it, there's only so much I can do as a, this volunteer job like you.
We have a
right?
question from George.
Yeah, George Kaminsky, Old Jacobs Road. I guess the one partial question I have is the West Street soccer fields. I know a lot of the town land purchased around that area was for water supply purposes. It's aquifer protection. It's sandy soil that makes a great recharge. And Massachusetts Constitution allows that those type of lands fall under protection under Article 97. And any conversion of use, let's say from water supply to park and rec, would probably take a legislative act. It would probably require the town to file a MEPA, because MEPA requires the town to go through all this process, why you want to convert it, what land are you going to give us in place of that land. And I think, the water department also has, a transmission loop that goes, runs right by the soccer fields. And, I hear the common complaint about, they won't let us fertilize. Well, there is a good reason for not letting it fertilize. I mean, it not only does it carry a lot of nutrients, a lot of fertilizer has arsenic has cadmium. I mean, have you heard about those chemicals before? So,
We don't want to change our agreement with the water department. We have brought up the idea, organic tea that they have in Marblehead, that they've used successfully over their water supply. But we've been told by the water department of our agreement, we're not asking them to change that agreement here. They're just reaffirming that it is their land. We're not taking it over. That's not the intention at all. We know that we are guests on that property until a certain point at which we can find additional places.
I know, like when the Conservation Commission has specific language that you use, and it specifically goes into property and management. And that's because they want to be careful that if you convert that to another entity in town, the state environmental office say, you just converted that land, and then they could come after the town. So you gotta be careful how you.
Mike, is there some procedural we should be talking about? Is this something we should review with town council? What's your 2 cents?
This is I was looking through the disposition of the land, ownership of the land in our regulations, and except for a couple easements, the only thing that's in the regulations is that they're in charge of the American Legion Park. We don't, the rest of it has developed,
To meeting,
along the way.
Like the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because someone was managing it.
Because it's
I'm
not
sure,
being
before.
managed, but, that's the issue.
Yeah, I look at this as purely administrative.
Yeah, it is. And first of all, the water department, we don't want to change our agreement with them because, I mean, I'm just saying, we just want to have it down, that's all.
I don't think we're telling you how.
It's
we're
about,
just-
whose purview
just
is it
clearing
is
a
to
list.
be able to manage it and operate it, basically.
All right, so what is
Versus
it?
having it go just, who knows?
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Sorry.
No, I'm interrupting.
Some parcels of land will be able to do what we want, some parcels of land we won't, that's all. I mean, if we want to go to Martell, we make some improvements, we don't have to go to historical, because we know there's nothing out there, that's all. And it goes on until someone wants to do it differently, that's all.
So give me the top 5 management things that you guys do for these parks.
Well, we will open up American Legion, so that basically open up the house, the bathrooms, to put in the docks, manage all the bills that go between the playground upkeep, and we basically handle the bills at both of the memorial sites. Sometimes Peter does the mowing without mower, but we basically handle any extraneous bills in those. And the biggest thing we've been doing 5 years ago, building parks. We bought land on Martell Way, we bought East Main Street. We've been going through permitting on East Main Street for 2 years. That runs and we run events. We have a teen charity, a teen counselor who does teen events.
Permitting, right? You got
Permitting.
issue permits for the American
Right.
Legion.
So you're the maintaining authority for these properties?
Well, we have right now we're maintaining in 3 different directions. The GAA is maintaining West Street to a point.
But they have agreement with you?
They have agreement with us.
Right.
And Peter's maintaining some of our property with an agreement with us.
Yeah.
But you're the overseer of those agreements?
Yeah, I mean.
So all we're doing is really declaring a list, and each property's
Everyone
managed.
knows who to go to.
Yeah,
The
it's
single
a go-to.
throat to choke, I say.
Can
Well, if someone
Chairman-
changes, for instance, we had an issue a couple of years ago, someone changes the sprinkler system, we didn't pay $2,000 for water, the town paid $4,000. But we should have control of the sprinkler system, because we, the authority, pays the bill. No one likes to see $2,000 because as he was saying, they're throwing water onto sand, doesn't really do much. So those type of questions, we'd like to have it solidified. We end up putting a lock on that to make sure that people understood. But if we're paying these type of bills, we have to manage our costs accordingly, so.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I don't know if I want any response. I'm not looking for a response, but I know that there are 2 members of the planning board here. And I'll approach this from a 30,000-foot view. I don't know all the specifics, but I do know this, that skateboard park and the park on, that we have, that the townspeople voted for, it's taken much too long to get done. And, and I know there's gonna be a meeting on Wednesday, and I don't wanna get into all this, but I'm just gonna I'm not gonna be able to attend because of a family issue, but I'm gonna say this. I really, really, really wanna see that park done, and done as quickly as possible. It's gone too long, and I'm not blaming anybody, and everybody has their job to do, but please, let's please do whatever we can to get that, get beyond this impasse and get that thing done. The kids deserve it, the town deserves it, the townspeople voted for it, the money's been appropriated. Please, let's work together and get it done.
Well, now with the potential of not having those fields in Pembroke, if that ends up being what goes on in the future, we'll need those, we'll need that, even though it's a small field.
Well, I think we
We're gonna need
justified,
everything we need.
we've already
Yeah.
justified the need. Adding another piece to justify it even more is not the case. Please, I am, and I've had some private conversations with people about this. Please, let's get this thing done. If you need our help, to push things along in a way that we can make sure that people are doing their jobs, and if they're not, we'll reappoint new people to do it. Let's just get that skateboard park, and let's get the park done.
I'll take
Thank
that
you.
sentiment to Wednesday's meeting.
Thank
that's
you.
all.
If you would,
And
and you
I
can say
plan
that I
on
said.
attending, and you and I talked. This skate park has a large strategic impact, way beyond the frustration that your board's feeling. So I would hope that the board would take the emotion out of it and would look at it objectively and understand that this park is one very big puzzle piece that strategically ties into the new school, the rail trail, the water loop, the pressure we have on fields in town. I mean, it's big. So, and you guys have done, yeoman's work getting through there. One request while we have some planning board members here, I would make, and I plan on addressing your board, formally at the planning board. I will attend one of your boards and make this request. Is that when we have boards that are in town that are working with volunteers, that you assign the boards like Concom has done with the rail trail, that you would assign a member of your board to be able to liaison and work and help guide those board members that are coming to you with projects, to be able to make sure that they're getting the information correct and the information timely and packaged and done the way that the planning board would need to see it, so that we can avoid some of these starts and stops and everything. And I'm not placing any blame on the planning board or anywhere else. I just, in the spirit of cooperation, to be able to say, hey,
Mr. Chairman.
no, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying it would be helpful
Mutual.
if the planning board and Concom, I'm going to have that conversation with them, would just help these boards along and be able to just say, look, when we're asking you for this, this is what you need to be able to put together and how to put it together. Just have somebody help liaise. That's all.
You're
And
presupposing that wasn't done.
I'm just saying.
There was quite a bit of that.
There's a lot of back and forth and a lot of things, but I don't need to
The
bring.
biggest thing that's more important than anything is having respect for each board. We need to be able to speak and not overstepped, or when you're talking about something, be cut off. I think everybody deserves the right to speak, and I think going forward, we just need to have a little bit more respect for each other when someone's asking a question or not knowing what avenue to take.
Right.
I just think that's very important.
Mr. Chair, that is a discussion I think we probably
Yep,
should
we can
have
take
at
that
another time,
another-
but I would like to make a motion to approve the submitted list from the Georgetown Park and Rec Department that was approved by their board, that we acknowledge that the Park and Rec Department manages those properties.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion?
If I may, I think this is a good start. Are there other areas that maybe later would be added? I mean, I know we've got the, I don't know who really takes care of the one down there at Warren and Jackman Street.
With the
Is the old, where
fence,
the
the
old
fence.
fireman's
Yep.
memorial used to be, with that big ugly looking sign on there now. I don't know why we gotta have that all the time, but, and, and I'm
Peter
sure there's
put the-
other, we're talking about a new town tree, I'll call it.
Put a split rail fence on that parcel.
Yeah.
That's the fireman's monument.
Yes.
That's one I stayed away from at this point. I think it's being kind of, because it's a fireman's memorial. I think they've taken that. I'm not against.
No, the one down, where?
Down in Warren, down with the.
No,
with the
that
split
was a
rail.
DPW did that,
Okay,
the one at Warren and Jackson.
also the-
Fireman's was down at, East
Elm
Main and
Street.
Elm. Remember we had the memorial down there? We
right,
used
but
to-
they moved
yeah.
that, didn't they, when they made the
They
change?
put it now over in front of the
Public safety.
public
Okay,
safety
okay,
building.
so
But
it's
I
there
mean,
now?
the land is still there. Somebody, I guess, probably Peter mows it, but I mean, in the
Peter
future.
mows it?
It probably was at some points designated some type of a
Hmm.
park or something if
There's
it had
also-
that stone there.
There's also a small parcel by Napa where Peter put a Christmas tree.
Right.
It's probably about as big as.
Yeah.
Holiday tree.
Yeah.
No, it's a Christmas tree.
I'm sorry, it's a holiday tree. The good thing, but
Down tree.
one of the restrictions with the town common, because it is a town common, we wanted to put a sitting area. And if we had that little, even though it's a little postage stamp, we could potentially, it's, what is a sidewalk, someone could sit there if they wanted to
Yeah.
sit.
Little
So,
bench.
if it was a little piece of land that we had control of, we could have a new facility, even though it's tiny, and put a sitting area there so people could sit. Because there is no place for someone who wants to sit in the park to, underneath, you know, something with a little bit of, in case it's raining, get underneath for, wait till the rain goes by or whatever. Or go to Dunkin' Donuts, sit down and have a cup of coffee there, that's all. It'd be tiny, you know, only like a 3 or 4 sitting area, but something with an overhead.
I think it's
So
something to consider.
we could at least
definitely.
present that to the town and see if it was, that's it.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Go anywhere.
Sure.
As part of their management of properties, this contract just came in after the meeting was posted. Juliet and Suzanne have been heading this project for the Park and Rec Commission. They have a CPC grant to build a pavilion on the American Legion field. They came to me. I helped them through the bidding process. Actually, the project was under $25,000, so we didn't need a formal bid. But they did go out and get additional, you know, the 3 prices. Well, they contacted 3 contractors and asked them to bid. We only received 1 bid. It came in at $24,750, something like that. But it was listed not to exceed the $25,000. They did a fantastic job. I wish all the department heads would be as have attention to detail as Juliet and Suzanne did in going through this procurement process. They really, especially for volunteers, they really did a fantastic job. Long story short, I have 2 copies of a contract to be signed tonight, so the work can get underway and hopefully get built before the winter sets in. They're ready.
Really?
It's a local contractor, Georgetown Iron Works, and
Here in town?
they're really, they're right on Jackson
Oh, okay,
Street.
right.
And they're ready to hit the ground running and get this
Fantastic.
project done. So I need the board to authorize the chairman or the temporary chairman to sign the contracts tonight, so work can get done.
Do we need to take a vote?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I move that we authorize the acting chairman to approve the Town of Georgetown contract documents for the American Legion Park Pavilion project as submitted.
Second?
I'll second. So,
So between with the old bomb, well, I can't say bombshell.
With the swing sets now.
Yeah.
Emergency response building or something like that.
Fallout
So-
shelter. With the old fallout shelter, between that and the pot and the water,
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
swing set is, outside the 100-foot buffer zone, about 110 probably, we have a pavilion. So the building inspector told them, they went to see the building inspector, and off they went.
Yeah, no issues,
No, we met
no
with them.
site plans, no.
No, not
Concom,
needed.
no.
I mean,
Where are we
whatever
getting
they
the money
needed,
from?
they got done.
where are we getting the money from?
CPC, the article for the
Okay.
For the playground was both the playground, upper,
And then-
lower, and the pavilion.
Okay, all right, so I remember the playground, but I didn't, the pavilion.
that was part
Okay,
of it.
all right.
Okay. Any discussion?
If I may say a little something, and this is to sort of echo what Mike was saying, but it is some discussion, and it's glad to hear Mike saying how well it was to work with him. But it seemed like perhaps some people might be, and nothing, think that they can't come and work with our town manager. I mean, Mike did the procurement hearings. Town administrator, okay. But I mean.
Did we give him a raise?
I got the feeling that they were surprised, maybe some surprise somewhere that things went well. And I've always really heard nothing but good stuff about Mike. So, I mean, I'm glad that you were able to cooperate and work well together. And anybody else, yeah, don't be afraid to come in and ask questions. I guess that's it.
You got the right
Well,
mic?
thank you, Gary, but I've had similarly good experiences with the historic commission too. They're real attention to detail type people.
I'm on that, by the way. I wasn't part of that, though.
I just want, I mean, I know the building inspector's been here, what's probably a year now, or 6 months?
Oh, yeah.
3 years?
3 years.
I hear nothing, I know nothing about who the old building inspector or who the ones before,
Right.
but I'm hearing a lot of positive things about this building inspector. I've never even met the man. I know even my neighbors who have dealt with him said he's been very good. He's been a good addition to the town, downtown area, that's all. And that's all, like I said, it could be you, for all I know, but.
So I made one good hire, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I know, I mean, he knows the law, he gets people on the right
Say
course.
aye? Did he say aye?
Yeah. I guess he evidently gets people on the right course, he makes people feel good about coming in and.
That was Gary and I did
Getting
all
it things done, so.
That's all
You
right.
know, he gives a lot of good direction, I hear, so.
Gary and I did all the interviewing the other day.
All right, we have a motion,
See how
we
he
have a
is?
second.
See?
Any
This
further
has gone
discussion
through
here?
all the proper stuff with Mike, so let's go. Patriots.
All right,
definitely on
so
tonight.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
All right.
Sign away, Stu.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
I'll sign at the
Thank
end.
you.
so
Great
I don't
job,
hold
guys.
up anybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Great job.
Minutes of September 23rd. I'll entertain a motion.
Do we have to go over this though?
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from our general session on September 23rd, 2013.
Second. Okay, any discussion?
1 second, please. I had it right in front of me. Nope, no discussion on my part.
This is the general meeting.
Yes. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, passes 4-0.
Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from our September 22nd, 2013 executive session.
Second.
In the air.
23rd.
See what you guys have.
23rd. Excuse me.
Any discussion?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
we sort of approved these at our last meeting.
You don't want to give the planning board any credit.
It's
You
been
put up for it
rewritten
for a long
and
time.
it's
I
more
got them.
descriptive, but if you remember our last one where we approved, it was this meeting that we approved, and where it says that it was a unanimous vote,
I mean, I'm all new to this.
I don't believe it was.
You know what I mean? I'm just
I'll
trying
have
to
to look back, I guess, maybe because I was at the meeting, so I did a set.
This is what we, this is the one
Yeah, that
we
was not a
approved.
unanimous
This is
vote.
the one we approved last time. It was sort of, if you remember, we made amendments to this. And,
We had 2 executive sessions that night, wasn't
we had one, yes, we had one at 6:30, which we've
And
not
then
done
one
minutes
later.
to. And this one sort of started off as that one, and, but then it ended up to be the later one, so we amended this one and we accepted it. So,
Then why don't we hold those, and
Then
I'll
let's-
look back at them both,
Yeah, let's hold those.
Chair, I
and
move
talk
that I
about-
withdraw my motion.
yes, thank you.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Gary.
I'm glad someone has a good memory.
I know. Mike, I want to talk discussion of, discuss an appeal of planning board constructive endorsement of Tolman A&R. You want to bring us up to speed on that?
Yes, if the planning board.
Would you like me to address that, Mike?
Want to jump in?
Yeah,
Well,
please.
I've had the discussion with legal counsel and Howard, so let me just start the
Set the
ball
table.
rolling, and then planning board members can fill in the details. An applicant came to the planning board for an A&R. What does A stand for, Chris?
Approval not required.
Approval not required. And unfortunately, the timing was missed. And they thought they had 28 days. They really only had 21 days to address it. So what happens in that case, if they miss the 21 days, it gets constructively approved just by
operational law.
Yeah. And the applicant then goes to the town clerk and says, sign this plan so I can register it with the registry of deeds. The town clerk has never had this happen before and didn't know what to do. So she just said, I'm not signing anything until I talk to the town administrator and the attorney. So Howard, Janice, and myself, we talked to town council. And he said, yeah, you know, it looks like it's a constructive approval. You need to sign it. And the town council is going to draw up a certificate for Janice to sign, and then the applicant is free to go register it at the registry of deeds. Town council, because there is only a 20-day window for appeals for the town to appeal, and that clock started the day the 21 days ran out.
Okay.
Which was on the 14th of this month. So the whole appeal process has to be filed by December 4th. And for that to happen, the planning board has to vote to appeal it. And then the Board of Selectmen have to vote to okay the appeal, because you've got the only authority to litigate.
Oh, okay.
So, because of usually it's planning board acts first, selectmen act second. Because you're not meeting again until the 2nd, council suggested that the Board of Selectmen act provisionally to approve the appeal based on the recommendation of the planning board. We're not usurping any of their authority. They could vote not to appeal.
Then
And
it's
I
moved,
guess,
right, at
you know,
that
the constructive approval goes through. This is and I don't want to get into details, it's a potentially a 4-lot subdivision on an unimproved road. So, but that's up to the planning board to
That's your sandbox.
play with.
Lucky.
So,
Lucky you,
Chris can
exactly.
fill in any of the other,
Exactly.
planning board side.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, not to show any predisposition towards anything, Chairman Locatilia has polled all the board members, and we're having an emergency meeting Thursday of this week for the purpose of discussing and voting on whether or not the planning board supports appealing it.
Okay. What's the rationale for the appeal?
The rationale for the appeal would be that the planning board doesn't support it, if that's the wish of the board. That it was the type of error that, I mean, even the applicant's counsel was confused as to the timeline. And that neither party would be prejudiced if it continued on to a full hearing.
Okay,
Because it could be, one of the options is that could be brought in as a subdivision,
instead of an approval not required. If it were brought before the planning board, and I'm talking in the abstract, then an unimproved way would have to be built to acceptable today's acceptable standards, rather than what could be a dirt road, if you would.
Right, so, for whatever reason, we missed the deadline.
Right.
And, the plan is, in your board's potential opinion, grossly inadequate for the zoning that's required, that should be in the position.
I mean, what I can take back to the board from this meeting is that should we decide to appeal it, the selectmen will have already authorized it to proceed to town council. Is that a fair statement like that?
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, sounds pretty straightforward. You guys.
You just have to be very careful, Phil, about what I say, so.
I hear you. We missed a deadline operationally and by law that you know, it goes automatically approved, and you guys are hoping to go back to get a judgment that says let it go through the proper planning board approval process.
And to tell you the truth, if I were to argue that before a Superior Court judge, and I'm sure town council will want to talk to us, I mean, we were waiting for materials that we asked the applicant to provide us as time ticked on. And silly us, or shame on us, we missed it. The planning board, the planning department missed it. And we take the credit, we take the blame.
What's our cost in an appeal like this?
Well, depends on whether it goes to Superior Court or Land Court. You know, it still could be, you know, several $1,000s or more.
And has our attorney given us an opinion on whether that we should appeal this or not?
Well, he's given me an opinion that we should preserve the right to appeal. If the planning board determines that, or has a feeling that see, the road, as I understand it, hasn't been defined real clearly. On one piece of information that the applicant submitted, it said it's a public road.
Right.
And another, but you know, on a plan, it says it's a private road. So we don't know what kind of road it is, and nobody's proven, you know, by title search or deed that who owns it.
Mr. Chairman, quick question. Hypothetically, though, without moving you either way and making your opinion biased before the hearing, this could be settled between the planning board and the applicant, because the applicant probably has a good idea that, you know, this could go to court. They may come to you at your meeting and say, or at the hearing and say, we've identified the issue with the road, and we're gonna do what we probably anticipate that the planning board's gonna require. So this could get settled out of court, so to speak. All we're doing is preserving the right.
Preserving the right.
That's all town council, from what I.
But by preserving the right.
That doesn't mean you're going to court.
Right, but that puts the decision in your hands, planning board's hands, when normally that's in our hands ahead of time with all the facts in front of us, after the hearing. So that's where maybe the little apprehension is. My sense is that, you know, I don't think anybody wants to go to court and fight over the A&R when we basically have remedied their right to the A&R in the first place. They really don't have the right to the A&R anymore. If you after your hearing, vote to say, you know, we're not gonna go ahead.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say they don't have the right to the A&R.
Okay.
They produced a map from the 1800s that showed this road.
Okay.
As a main street, right?
Was in fact.
All right. Okay.
A main thoroughfare through town
at
one time.
Right.
So
Through the town of Rowley.
Yeah.
Not the town of.
Right. That's exactly before it was Georgetown,
and
technically, right?
I asked them,
Yep.
being the legal eagle on the board, if they could show us through the chain of title in documents that do not have the petitioner's name on it. Meaning, Mr. Tolman or one of his companies that owns the property. So we could see the chain of title up. And they had a hard time, I mean, it's back in those deeds read 12 rods from this monument. They're very old deeds. And from what the engineer tells us, that the road starts at one size and it varies all the way up to the subject parcel. What, if I can speak honestly for the board, I mean, we're so open-minded. That's why we asked them to produce these documents. So before we make a decision, we have all the information. We try to do our due diligence and walk them through what they need to show us if they want to prove their point. And if the documents are the documents. If they're in their favor, they're in their favor. If they don't show what needs to be shown, they don't show it. And I think because we were waiting for that and we thought we were doing the right thing, the drop dead date got past us.
Right, because the applicant was saying it was a public road, right? And the question that was coming from the board was, is it private or not, or is it partially public and partially private? Is that what
Well, there are a bunch of issues, Stuart. There's, if it's public, why is there a gate that says no motorized vehicles?
Right.
If it's a road, why is there a sign that says no motorized vehicles?
Right.
It was represented to the board that part of the state has jurisdiction
Right.
over it.
Because of the fire?
The
No.
departments keep changing their names. I don't know which
Oh.
department it is with the state that allegedly has control over it. And, you know, call it the lawyer in me, but I like to see things in writing. So rather than have someone come up and say, like you said, love to have that easement in writing.
Yeah.
That settles it.
Yep.
Rich, let me ask
We'd like to see the documents that say this is
Public, private, whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think the board has made that, I know the board has not made that decision. Because right in the middle of our discussion of, well, this is what we're looking at, the time frame came up. And it was, the chairman said, it's 20 days? Yeah. We're after the 20 days? Yeah. Closed it and said, well, there's nothing we can do now.
Mr. Chair, so Rich, I look at it this way. So I don't believe I've ever had the request from the planning board to appeal
We have no-
before.
We've never done it.
All right, in the
I
six,
don't think-
7 years that I've been doing
And all
this.
the time I've been on.
So I have the utmost confidence in it, and we're all human. Our board has missed deadlines before as volunteers. I got it. And I think from a public standpoint, you could look at this and say, they don't have their act together. This is going to cost the town several $1,000s because of an oversight. I want to assure the town that I have not gotten any appeals requested in the 7 years that I've been on this board, which is a testament to, to the fact that you do your job as a committee and you get it done. And take emotions and passions and decisions out of it, but I have the confidence that you guys are doing what you set forth to do in your mission. So
We're gonna have a meeting Thursday. The only thing on the agenda is that topic and only that topic. And I'm sure it will be discussed in depth and the pros and cons. Personally, do I think an issue like that would be settled out of court? Oh, yeah. And personally, do I like paying town council the fees that he gets? No. But if that's the board's wish, whatever the board's wish is, I'm one vote. And I haven't made up my mind what I think we should do. I want to hear what the alternatives are from my colleagues.
Good. You had a question, Karen?
Yeah, it's to Mike, as you'd mentioned, when this came in, you got people together. Did you talk to John Menavore at all, as building inspector or code inspector, as to what he feels could be done where this thing has a approval not required?
Actually, I haven't. It hasn't risen to his level. However, when speaking to town council, they actually, town council actually said the motion should include authorize the planning board and/or the building inspector to appeal to land court, or to appeal, period. There's still a option, as I said, to appeal either to land court or to Superior Court. I think the town council's preference is land court, but he hasn't made a final decision. But it's a decision, according to council, for the planning board and/or the building inspector.
I guess
And I don't know how much he's had inputted to this point at all.
Any idea, if I may then refer to Chris, any idea what could, I know I heard talk about a possible four-house lots going in. Or a building inspector could say, no, there's no road here, I'm not giving you permits. I mean, it's not always that easy to get things permitted.
What was represented to the planning board was that it was he wanted to subdivide the property into 2 lots?
4.
4?
Yeah, I
Four
did watch
lots.
your meeting.
Okay, because I remember it was represented that he wanted to build a house for himself and his son. And I see so many plans up there, they all become one mishmash at a certain point. But I have no
All right. Any further
doubts that it'll
discussion?
be fully discussed at the meeting.
Good.
And
Any further discussion? I'll
Yeah, my
entertain
only
a
quick
motion.
question is try to
Well, we don't
do
have
what
a
we can.
motion yet, right?
Try to
I'll
do what we
entertain a
can
motion.
to settle out of court, so to speak, so we don't have to go to.
Mr. Chair, I move to authorize the planning board's request to authorize the planning board and/or the building inspector to appeal the Coleman A&R application.
Is that about right, Mike? Second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like, we're on a deadline. We can't do this at our next meeting.
No, because they're gonna have to, if they do appeal, they're gonna have to file briefs with whatever court they file.
And we can't reverse this if we want.
We could have an extra meeting.
If you call the special
I mean,
meeting.
let's say
and-
we had more input, and we decided, you know what, and let's say we were in disagreement with what they wanted, but as selectmen, could we reverse it?
Yeah, we always could get together prior to them appealing and stop the appeal. That's our discretion.
you guys write the check.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's as easy as telling legal counsel, do not
We're
proceed.
not doing it.
Change
Okay,
their
so we-
mind.
so we-
I look at it this way.
So
I
we
gotta
have-
tell you,
we have
the
recourse
courts-
if there's an
If I can, I mean,
Look at the dates.
been in town a long time. I know we've had a lot of these old roads, and it comes up, and we've tried to improve it with town maps, and we take this road off, and we make this road private. And it's a road that's been here for years, has land on it, and I try not to get too restrictive when someone has owned land and been paying taxes on it for a long time. And it gets tougher and tougher today. It's not that easy.
Right.
I mean, my own family went through it once, and I mean, what we thought was a house lot was always gonna be a house lot, cost over $30,000 just to get a stamped building permit. It's not that easy, and no, I can't at this time vote in favor of it. I mean, I'm sorry. I watched the meeting, and it did seem like all parties were getting along well. I know they were answering, you were asking for stuff, oh, sure, maybe in the back of their head they knew, but,
And the board,
Yeah, but, I mean-
if I may speak, Gary, the board is sympathetic with that. This is the first time that I've been present at an A&R that we weren't getting the information necessary, and the applicant would have to put in wells. There's no public service on this area. And a lot of these older streets does have water, electricity. He had nothing
Well,
for this dirt road. And with a subdivision, those things would be taken care of.
so agreed, but also without it, if a couple of lots are built in there, where does the town lose? I could see it if there was 8 house lots going in there, and the next thing you know, you got 8 people showing up down here and saying, listen, all we've got is a dirt road. We've got no water. We've got, we have to pay. This is a public road. Please pave my road. But if you've got a 2 house lot, there's a lot of them in town that are like that.
Yeah.
The area we talked about earlier. The town really can't do much for those streets up there because they're paper streets and not approved ways. Is that correct? A lot of them in Lake Shores. So I guess what I'm getting to is if we spend some money to appeal this, where does the town lose if it goes through? We're gonna get a couple more houses in the future, I guess. Where do we lose in the future that warrants us spending some money now to go to court?
You're not gonna lose anything really, because as I see it, a couple of $1,000s is peanuts when it comes to 4 houses being developed and putting in electricity and putting in water and making
But we wouldn't
it
be required
passable.
to.
And the town is going to get taxes if the court says, denies us, you're gonna get those houses. He's gonna go for it. I think he's going for it. I got the impression that he's going for this because the board was discussing it as you were there, and it didn't sound like any of us were gonna go for it or support it. So then he comes in with this 28-day thing.
But my question is, if this goes through, are there requirements that the town will have to meet to do this? Will the town be required to put the power in? Will the town be required to put the water in? I don't believe we will be, correct?
No, I don't.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't know that I see
Either way, you're
loss
saying.
there
Yeah,
for
you're
the
saying either
town.
way.
That's the point I'm trying to get to,
Yeah,
yes. I think
either
you're
way.
understanding me.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, no, I see your point.
Can I make a suggestion? Why don't we forego this vote or table this vote? You have your meeting. When is your meeting, this Thursday?
This Thursday.
If we have to, well, it'd be too late to post. I'll say we could reconvene on Monday night and talk, you could come to us and say, hey,
Why don't you do it right now?
We could
Because it
post it
take-
for Monday, right?
but
Put it on the agenda right now for Monday night. The mere fact,
and then if we don't
We
need to
could
do it,
post
we
for
just
Monday.
cancel our meeting.
you can always say there's no need to have it,
Right.
Right.
issue's been resolved.
Right. Because that takes to,
So-
I see what Gary's saying. It takes
Oh, I
to
understand fully what
control-
Gary's saying,
Right.
but I think what town council is saying, if I can leave my seat here and put myself in his head, is the mere fact that you authorize the planning board to take a vote, or that you're telling the planning board in advance
Yeah.
that we will, if you guys vote, we'll send it to town council to start the appeal. Just because you start the appeal doesn't mean you have to go to the very end of it and spend several thousands of dollars. But what town council is saying, preserve your right to that appeal by authorizing it. If the board votes yes,
Right.
then it goes right to town council, and he gets all the paperwork in that preserves the right, that the appeal.
Correct.
You've fulfilled all the elements prior to,
It's beating the clock.
The conditions
Doesn't mean we have to
preceding.
go to the dance, but
Exactly.
we're
And
beating the
that still
clock.
costs money to do that. That's Gary's point. Is
But-
it still cost, right?
absolutely, but I don't think you're
Pretty
talking
minimal.
several thousand,
Okay.
you know.
That's only if you get to trial.
Yeah, I mean,
Is there a
it's,
reason we
yeah,
can't
I
do
mean,
File
Monday?
some motions, that's all.
Is
No,
there a
you
reason-
won't even be filing motions. It's all you do is you're gonna file the brief,
A brief, that's what I meant.
and you give the notice of appeal, and you file the supporting brief. Then the court's gonna come up with the timeline, and you won't see a timeline before the
yeah,
second month of next year.
yeah.
I mean, if there's a reason we can't do Monday?
Any issues?
Um,
Schedules?
because that would give us time to hear from our building inspector, code enforcement officer, some of his opinions.
Another thing is that when we have our Thursday meeting, that could be an executive session, because it's potential litigation. So,
But you'll
No,
still have an
no.
answer.
I don't, no, I don't see,
You have to vote in public on.
I would respectfully disagree
you have
with
to
my
vote
colleague.
in public, but the discussion,
I wouldn't go in a non-public
No,
session.
it's a public, I mean, it's gonna be posted as an open meeting.
Why don't we piggyback on their meeting on Thursday night?
You're welcome to be there. Bring the coffee.
I'm out Thursday night. That's-
Even more so. He's not gonna be around? Come on. No, I'm kidding.
Anything you do tonight can't be reversed at another time.
Well, we can do this then, so let's go down that path. We can do this tonight. We can say to legal counsel, just file the notice to preserve our right to appeal. That's all we're doing. We're not going through.
Exactly.
Then we can take another vote to say, down the road, if,
We'll
to
pursue it
our
or
next
not.
meeting, that says, we don't wanna do it. So, legal counsel, even though we have the right to appeal, we're not going to. That doesn't, I mean,
You're
we can
gonna-
do that if we need to.
Is all you're going to do, from what I hear as from Michael, is you're just gonna preserve your right, so you're within the time constraints of, you have to file a notice of appeal by this date,
Which is what, December?
4th.
December 4th. So that paperwork gets in. And just tell council,
Yes or no?
preserve the rights, stop there. Come back to us with a guesstimate as to what it's gonna cost.
And then we can weigh out,
Then that's
Gary, to
business
Gary's
decision.
point, why do we even want to appeal it?
Absolutely.
What's the worst case scenario? We're gonna get four more houses in, and we're gonna get more taxes, and we're gonna get, we're gonna get more real estate taxes, and we're gonna get some improvements to the road. We don't have to provide the water and the electricity. What bank in the world is gonna give the person a mortgage on those properties
Without water or
electricity and water? So, so we are protected there. But to Gary's point, what's so bad if somebody, what is so wrong with this person wanting to put up, even if it was two houses, one for him and one for his son? I don't see any downside to it other than, if there's neighbors and there's all
Problem
those
is,
other issues
if
that
we
go
allow
along
them to build on an illegal road, then we're setting a precedent to let other people build on an illegal road.
Well, I
So
don't
is
know
he
that
considering it
because it
public?
was.
No, because of the way it was done.
Yeah.
They would still have to go through the same process, and the next time, no offense, we wouldn't miss the deadline.
Those deadlines are in there
The only
for a
reason why,
reason.
yeah, there wouldn't be setting
There
a
are some
precedent.
interesting things on the deeds to the property. The deeds state that they corner on Pingree, is it Pingree Farm Road? Or
no, Pingree Road.
Pingree Road. And that was that thoroughfare back then,
And
if
another
you wanna
one-
call it a
Another
thoroughfare.
person called it Marlboro Road, right? If I remember watching your meeting.
Yeah, on the other side of the street, of East Main Street is
So,
Marlboro.
and it's, you have to look at that, because I specifically asked that question. What do the meets and bounds read? Does it say it fronts on a street?
That's not the only thing that we have to consider. We also have to consider access to that way. We have to consider the municipal using, repairing and maintaining the road. There's more to it, and it just added up so much that the board was discussing it like it ought to be a subdivision to get this all of these issues squared away.
There are some real interesting aspects in this road, which at one time, as it appears from that 1800s map, was a thoroughfare at that time. There's nothing in the registry of deeds that shows an abandonment of it by the Board of Selectmen or the county as a way. We've specifically asked for the 100-year title search to be done on it, and
Through the applicant?
it doesn't show up.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I make the suggestion that we step back from the specifics now and talk about what we're voting on? We're voting on the right to preserve the appeal, and we're based on a decision by planning board, we're authorizing our attorney to file a notice, and preserve our right to appeal. That doesn't mean we have to go through with the appeal, we can make that decision later.
Right.
In the essence of the whole thing. the theory or the thought process behind, oh, well, we might as well let, somebody build two houses, what's so bad and wrong with that, to Gary's point, which I'm leaning with Gary.
I was on
But
that
that's a
same
separate, I
page.
think that's a separate issue, in a way. I think all we're gonna do is this is a procedural issue to preserve the right to have the appeal go forward.
Right.
But we don't have to make that decision until after we hear from planning board.
I think the mechanics of it is the planning board is gonna take their vote. The town administrator will be advised of what the vote is, then we're out of the picture.
Right.
It goes right to you. He's gonna handle it and do whatever he has to do with town council. You're just giving pre-approval because of the
Timeline.
exigency of the timeline.
All right,
All right,
Mr.
stop
Chairman,
selling
move the
me before I
question.
make my just,
Mr. Chairman,
different-
I move the question.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Hey,
All those abstaining?
hey. Hey, can I ask that we keep this on our next meeting under old
Yeah, it should be.
business so that
Absolutely.
we're sure to revisit it?
Absolutely. So this
Okay.
was
Thank you,
a 3 to
ladies and
1.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time and giving us the background and
Hope you
everything.
have a DVR box too.
He's got a DVR. All right, we're gonna move off the financial. Thank you for coming in. Thank you, Tilly.
guys.
We're gonna move off financial management. We're not gonna do that. I have a quick letter here to read. Winter parking bans, December 1st. The town's winter parking ban will take effect until April 1st of 14. No parking on any streets allowed between the hours of 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. No parking allowed on any street during a declared snow emergency. This is always done when any impending storm is forecast to be 6 inches or more in depth. The Boston radio stations are notified. Any vehicles impeding or blocking snow and ice control will be towed at the owner's expense. And if you're parking overnight in the park and ride lot, please park all cars to the right. So this will be posted on in the press and on our TV station. Anything further to add? Good. DECA. We have a proclamation. Do we have to read the whole proclamation?
No, I don't think you do.
All right. So, DECA is Distributive Education Clubs of America, prepares emerging leaders and entrepreneurs in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management in high schools and colleges around the globe. The request is to the board to proclaim November DECA Month. Entertain a motion to proclaim November
So moved.
as DECA Month. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
4-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Mike, Selectmen report on, I'm sorry, Town Administrator report on Pembroke?
Yeah, the state approved the mediation plan by by our consultants on Friday morning. That was the plan. They had 21 days to respond to, so they really did step up and expedite it. Since that time, now it's up to the contractor to execute the plan. And actually first tell us how much it's gonna cost to execute the plan. We anticipate getting some change orders from him on Wednesday. How much it's going to, cause him to deviate from the original building plan. There's gonna have to be separation between the contaminated soil and the workers. And they also are gonna have to keep have a very strict dust control plan. The deep drilling samples did come back, and they are basically, and it was targeted in the construction area. They're all over the ballpark, from very low to extremely high. Russ, not Wilcox, but Russ Barton, we had a conference call today, and I asked him if he was ready to be able to declare whether it's naturally occurring or not. And he said the jury's still out, they're still analyzing some other data. And so he can't say. The difference means how we treat it, or how many options we have to deal with it. If it's naturally occurring, we have more options than otherwise. So we're waiting. The school building committee is tentatively, I haven't seen the meeting posted, but they're probably gonna have a special meeting Thursday night to deal with the change orders, and we should have another LSP plan to look at and compare with the Barton and Wilcox plan as well. So it gives us further options. But
that would be based on the approved submitted plans?
yes.
Okay, so it would be the actual execution of it.
Yep, and the good news is, if it all goes according to plan, the contractor could be starting on Monday, next Monday. Our consultants have given him permission to at least move his heavy equipment back on the site, which they had to remove. So he with some advanced training that they'll have to do as part of the mediation plan, they have to take a 40-hour OSHA course, which we'll get to pay for.
Our expense, right?
Absolutely.
Every employee?
Well, every employee that's gonna be coming in contact with the dirt, all their site people, and, once they get the building up.
40 hour?
40 hour.
Really?
Yep. So.
That's $30,000.
That's at least.
Per person?
No, don't say per person.
So Mike, I would like to get to the number, the expense, the additional expense as a result of the delay, because in the delay of construction, because this was withheld, that the testing didn't occur. Not the OSHA course, because if we tested on time, they would have done this
We'd
anyway.
still have to do that,
Yeah,
right.
but it's the other delay that, for instance, having to pull the equipment off the site. If we had known
Remobilization.
the remobilization
Mm-hmm.
and change orders that are as a result of the late testing, not the results of the because of the results of the testing itself. Because if we had done it on time, we would have known this, but we wouldn't have put equipment on the site and taken it back.
Right.
If we had known.
The start
Those
and
types
stop.
of things. I'd like to know we should pursue that number when we get that
Also,
together.
as a point, is that had we had that review, had it come up before we went to bid, we would have then had all of this into the plan, and it wouldn't be additional. It would have been into the bid, and it wouldn't be another pile-on. So that's a whole nother
Well, it would be a pylon
piece
because
of
it would have increased our costs.
But it would have been in the bid, and it wouldn't have increased our costs because of the start and stop. It would have been
Right,
in the bid
right. And that's
document,
the
and it
point,
would
we
have
have
been
to
baked
sift-
into the
right.
number rather than
Well, it could
this
be
start
right.
and stop.
Well, maybe that's a blessing in itself.
Well,
because
maybe,
now we
maybe
can
not.
sift
I
it
don't
out
know.
because
Right.
we have a baseline number.
Possible.
Let's sift out that number, and
Yep.
and then this board can make the determination based on what that number is, if we want to pursue it legally, or, talk to the architects and say, hey, this is coming off your bill. Maybe we can come to some type of settlement on that. But again, I want to know what that number is. It may be a very small number. Who
If I
knows?
may.
You know?
How are the more shallow tests coming out? Any idea? I mean, in the
They're coming out pretty much the same. They're all over the limit for adults and under the limit for children because of the length of exposure. They also did. They talked about this at the the forum that we had. They did conduct wipe tests in the
How'd that go?
building, and it went very well. There were no, I shouldn't say there were no, which one am I on? The only place they found high concentrations, with two exceptions, were in inaccessible areas. Talking about the big beams that are in the library,
where they did the
behind, areas where there's plumbing pipes, large pipes. There was one area, but that was in a classroom on a shelf, on an outside shelf. There was dust there, but it was only in one classroom. They've been doing a very good job. Actually, it started with the ESCO project. They cleaned out all the duct work, not the duct work, but the vents. And the changed
Blowers.
all the filters, cleaned all them out. They did get some high hit on the intake of the
Makes sense.
place. The filters are doing their job.
Yeah, okay.
It didn't get in the building. One recommendation, and the school's been on changing their filters every 6 months, and they recommend now just do it every 2 months. The wipe tests were, they could have been a lot worse.
So the beams and the pipes, did they clean them afterwards?
They just found out
Remediate?
today.
Okay, so they're gonna
and
remediate
they're
those properly,
gonna-
take care of them properly. Okay.
Yeah, they have to get a scissors lift to get up there.
A vacuum, some type of HEPA
Yeah.
vacuum. Okay.
Mr. Chair, so I thank you for sending me the plans, the health maintenance safety plan. I read through it and I wasn't clear on a couple of things. One is, and I'll have to go Thursday night. So I understand by Wednesday we're going to have a budget of what this change order should look like, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess.
Although they haven't been very good at meeting their deadlines lately, but.
Who's they?
Well, the testing agency. The builder, however, Wright Brothers, they're very eager to get started. And
But they won't get started until we know what that change order is, right? So if we got a $3 to $4 million contingency on the project, right? My only worry is that we begin working on this and something horrific comes back in terms of a remediation that could put the project in jeopardy from a budget standpoint.
Yeah, in the conversations with the state and with, they just have to achieve the separation. And they're not thinking it's probably gonna be more costly out on the bare fields than it is at
The actual site.
construction site. 'Cause you're gonna have separation created by the
Pavement,
building pad
building.
and by pavement.
Right, the roadways.
Once you put the building down and pave,
You
you've
have
achieved
separation.
your separation.
Exactly.
Only where you've disturbed the dirt that's not gonna be paved or covered with concrete. But the field, that's gonna require at least 3 inches of 3 feet
Yeah,
of
thank
soil.
So can I just clarify one point, Mr. Chairman, that Phil brought up? We originally had about a $3 million contingency in the original budget. Was it that high? I should know these
They
numbers.
said
It's been
3
a-
to 4 the last
Oh,
time we
no,
met.
well, there's a
It's not
difference
a
between
contingency.
contingency.
No.
Well, this is my
It's an
point.
underbid.
Is it, right.
Right.
So Was there also there was a number for contingency also?
10%.
There,
What was the number? I can't remember off the top of my head.
There's various,
Each-
the owner's contingency is $400,000.
Okay, so it wasn't that much. Because my point was, you know, you don't call it a contingency. We were underbid.
Mhm.
The contingency is another number that's in the bid.
Right.
Built
So
into
there's
the
more
project.
than whatever it was, 4.4 million. There's actually more money in there because I'm worried about the caps number.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a little bit more money in there. But we're gonna need those for normal, probably
But
operating.
You gotta understand that the
in Elm Street.
MSBA is only gonna pay for that 32 million
Oh, no, I understand
that was
that.
on
Right,
the bid.
right.
You know what I mean?
It's not even that.
It's
It's like
on the
20.
appropriation from town meeting. That's where
Well, that's
where your gap is.
But I just wanted to make sure we knew what that number is. All contingencies on the whole project,
Mhm.
plus the underbid,
Mhm.
is basically the money that we
Yeah,
have.
it's 4 million plus contingency,
Right,
basically.
yeah. You know, so, it just hopefully that the fields, you know, don't cost us as much. We'll see. I mean, you know, hopefully we'll stay under the number. It would have been nice not to spend that 4 million, but you never know when you go into these type of projects. It's just what I was
We'll
disturbed
see.
about is the timing lapse. That's all.
Yep, we'll see. All right, any further discussion on this, gentlemen? All right.
Everybody's safe though, right? We can certainly say that everybody's safe. The children are protected.
Yeah, the children do not appear to have, to be in any.
That our employees are
imminent
safe.
danger.
Employees are safe also. At this
Uh,
point.
Well, as you heard, the difference in the
It's the timeline, the long-term
Well, I understand
exposure
that,
is
but there's no more
1
exposure.
in 100. It went up from 1 in 100,000 to
1.5.
1.5 in 100.
Right. But my point is that our employees are no longer exposed because they're not on the fields because they've been closed. There's been wood chips, whatever it was, mulch or wood chips. The barriers have been set up. There's no additional exposure from construction because we have the safety plan. I understand there's gonna be people walking around with meters and testing the air and everything else. So as far as we're concerned at this point, children are not in danger, and unless somebody's worked there 25 years and they stood on the fields a lot, you know, nobody else is exposed right now. We've stopped the exposure completely.
There's no accessible dust in the building.
in the building, so to
With-
speak.
with that one minor exception.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good.
Good. Thanks for the update. We look forward to getting more on that. Guess this will be another week where I'm here 4 nights a week. All right, last piece here is recruitment. I wanted to talk to the board about recruitment. There's a draft letter here that I had asked Mike to draft up. We've had a lot of trouble getting people to step forward. Janet, are we putting on the notice of openings in the electric bill next month, December, or?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
check with them again.
Would you also do an audit on these, on what we have for, just cross-reference what we have actual openings? Because I noticed on here as an example, we had Concom with 1 opening, but when I looked at the website, it showed 2. So I
Yes,
just,
I talked to Concom today. Someone resigned, but they didn't.
You know, an updated master list would be good.
just want to make sure that this is accurate, so we
They
have
haven't
it.
told us that someone resigned yet.
It goes out.
That big list, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The big list with every board, every
Yep.
commission, with all the names.
Yeah, that's what I'm
there.
asking her to
Yeah, we got
take a
an
look
updated
at.
one would be great.
But, so, Mike had suggested that we actually, us as Board of Selectmen, invite people to serve.
I ask everybody all the
You
time.
know what I mean? I do too, and and in fact, I'm pleased to report I have a candidate that's interested in conservation, Concom, and one that's interested in FinCom, and then maybe another FinCom member as well.
I got somebody
So-
going through FinCom interviews too, so.
Okay, good. So what I would request is that the Board of Selectmen come up, on our next meeting, let's put a number to maybe possible candidates to be able to float, that we would then put an invitation letter out, and I would think, 3 to 5 names, if each member could come up with 3 to 5 names.
I think we just do a mandatory draft and select those people.
Or just, structurally change town government.
I'm forever asking.
Oh yeah, me too.
Asking
I'm
everybody.
the same.
So.
But can we make a commitment here that we'll come to the table minimally with 3 to 5 names
Yeah,
on the next
I
meeting?
don't know if I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, to be honest with you. And
Just
having
to get
somebody
the process
get a letter.
full moving forward. But they're people you know. You have a conversation with them. You know, I'm having conversations with people all the time.
I'm gonna
You know?
send that letter to you to sign up for some of those other boards,
Yeah,
Stu. Just
yeah.
so you know.
I'm a little. Again, I'm.
No, we'll do it.
No,
We'll do
I'm
it
just saying
ourselves.
inviting people to
Just
it to serve.
You know what? You know what,
That's all.
Stu? If you just ask us if we've done it, and our expectation
Right.
is
Right.
we've done it, or I can lie to you and tell you I did it. But it's if we want to do it, it's ourselves. to
It's
do.
borderline harassment. If I give you the
I'm
same
telling you,
the names, I've probably asked everybody 10 times already. So I'm a little uncomfortable with sending them a letter after they've already said I can't do it.
Well,
So-
maybe it's no, but I'm just saying maybe some new folks that you haven't thought of. But I don't know. What's the board's pleasure? Any interest in doing something?
I think we just keep pounding the pavement the way we're doing it. Put it in the electric bills. I think is a good way to do it. Put it on the TV, on our station, and put it in the newspaper, and just ask as many people as you possibly can. I think sending a letter in a way is, I think, pushing the envelope a little bit. But that's just me.
If I may, though,
Yes.
you put quite a bit of information in here. I was trying to understand it because, and I think I do, because the way it wrote, I highlighted, your name has come up as a type of person whose talents we would positively impact. I'm thinking, whose name? So I understand now with what
No,
you're
it would be
asking.
addressed to the individual.
Well, that was my question, so
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you're
the
saying.
message.
But I mean, has the second paragraph, the information been put out there? Perhaps you'd like to read it so that people,
Yeah.
Stu, then people understand somewhat what.
Yeah, I mean, so as part of this, the second paragraph is you probably don't realize that the town has only 43 employees, full-time employees, while it requires over 200 volunteers and elected citizens to fill all the positions to perform the functions necessary to meet all the federal, state, local laws, regulations, and bylaws. And then we're just talking about vacancies and what it is. So are you guys opposed to actually bringing up some names and sending some letters out? That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I'm a little, again.
I just call people.
Yeah,
No, I do too, and I
mean,
talk
that's
to people.
that's fine. I get it. I get what you're trying to do.
But to get this in
I
the
think we need an
newspaper,
open.
or
I think
get it
we
out
need a job
on
fair.
TV.
Yeah, we have it on
Like,
TV. It's in the paper every once in a while. It's going in the openings are going into the electric bill for December, I think, right?
Let's see how that works, and then we'll.
Yeah, I'm just bringing it up just to say,
I think
hey,
it's
look,
great.
Mike
I'm not-
Mike had brought it up as a suggestion where he had done it in.
I'm not
in
trying to
his
be a
other
Debbie Downer
town.
on this, Mr. Chairman.
No,
I'm just
but
trying to.
we
Yeah.
haven't
Don't
got
harass
them.
people.
We
You
haven't
just-
gotten people coming forward, so Mike was.
Well, Phil's going to
and I were
volunteer in the
talking.
police department after this past weekend. But
All right, just volunteer.
We could take.
How about an open house at some town event where we actually, if anyone's interested and want to learn more about volunteering for town, that we have, a few folks man a booth or a tent or beer cart or whatever it takes. All right, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Good night. Thanks,
Hey,
everybody. Beer cart, beer tent.